Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks Podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time. That's what the leaflets say.
This is Mark Archer from Alternate, and you're listening to the Dribbz Talks Podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of Dribbz Talks, the podcast where we highlight some of society's most talented individuals, bring them into the hot seat to share their stories, and today I'm joined by not one, not two, but three solid members of our community who go by the name of Mark, Paul and Dan, and together they form the award-winning household rave brand Audio Tech. Now, when you speak of the rave scene in the Midlands and the unsung heroes that devote their time and effort into bringing some of the finest parties to the Midlands, you better put some respect on these lads' names. It's a pleasure to have you guys on board. It's been a long time coming. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome, Ad. Glad to be here. Nice one. Sorry it's taken so long, mate.
Welcome. It's
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's all right, man. It's a pleasure. You ready for this tonight?
Yeah, we're always ready, mate.
Always ready. So, guys, you've had quite a sterling introduction from me there. Do you like that?
We love it.
Yeah?
Love it. As it, mate. Big us up. Yeah, love it.
And
Cheers, Ad.
I hope I did Audio Tech justice there.
You did, mate.
I want one of you lot to explain in your own words a quick introduction of Audio Tech and all the things that you stand for as a collective. Who's going to step up first with that?
I'll let me do it, because everyone, what the viewers can't see right here at the moment, everybody's pointing to me and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
We'll take it into it.
Yeah. So Audio Tech, who are we, what we were about, etc. So I'll start at the very beginning. It was born really out of just wanting to do our own little events, bringing people together, etc. Myself and Paul, and then literally, was it about a couple of months after Dan got involved?
A couple of events. I think.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
So moving on, it was basically all three of us, because we are as a team. So that's the way I see it. There's no point in saying from the beginning.
Absolutely.
What we wanted to do is basically do our own events where we brought in other people as a brand. What we didn't want to do is be a house brand, a drum and bass brand, a tech brand, or a techno band, because we think, or we even to this day, there's so many other good people doing it, and we wanted to be a collective that brought all those brands together to introduce people to the other brands. So they'll come to a drum and bass, and then we might have house on, and they'll go, oh, actually, we like a bit of that house, or we like that particular DJ, and that's what it was born out of, if you like.
And when we spoke earlier before, you said that's kind of before air anyway. You said that's naturally happened, hasn't it? People have been going to drum and bass events that wouldn't necessarily go to drum and bass events.
100%.
And vice versa.
Yeah, 100%. We know from our own crowd that we've had, say, for instance, I'll pick on Paul North. Say, for instance, Subvert, big up Paul.
Yeah, man, big up Paul.
Big up Paul.
We've had people who've come to our events who originally never went to Subvert. Now, they're like, they'll see a Subvert lineup and they're like, we're going to Subvert. And so we look at that as, as a plus, as a work. It's worked for us, it's worked for Subvert. And then we'll have vice versa. We might have people, let's say, for instance, who've been to a techno night, for Baz, big up Baz again.
Yeah,
big up Baz.
Everybody's like, big up Baz. I gotta stop mentioning names. Anyway, so they'll go to a techno night and then they'll say, actually, we really like that house night, or they'll just come to an Audio Tech night or event because they like the vibe, whatever. So that's basically the concept. We never started out wanting to do really club nights. Would you all agree, lads? We were always about sort of outdoors, building an environment where there was never really ever one marquee. So we always wanted at least two marquees, so we could have two genres, whether that be drum and bass or techno and house or whatever it may be. And then all the little bits, the gums that we add in, the fire breathers and all of that kind of stuff in between, because that's who we are, So yeah, that's the bottom line. It was,
that's
a keyword ad is, and I know it's one of them words that's always thrown about, but a keyword for us at the very beginning was collaboration. Mm-hmm. Always collaboration. You know what? Work with these people. And it's easy to say that. Oh well, we're working with Subvert. They've grown massively. Well, I'm not saying Subvert was small when we started, because they weren't. Paul's always done a really, really good night. Same as, like, say, Stepping.
Yeah.
But so we don't look at a brand and go, oh, do you know what? They can get 500 people in. No, it's not about that. It's about they're pushing their scene, they're pushing their boundaries, and they are absolutely on the ball in what they do. And we wanted to sort of embrace that.
Yeah.
Did you agree?
It's like a union, work together. Just like we've always believed in that mindset of, like, getting more, united we stand, and divide you fall. You always believe that there's so much strength when people are together. I've always believed in that, and I think that's the right way to keep on going with everyone,
100%, yeah.
Keep trying to encourage as many people as we can to...
Definitely. Now, as much as I thought I'd struggle for space to fit the audio tech team into the studio today, I've done a pretty good job moving things around.
Yeah,
you've done well, Alex.
It's cool, man.
And it's a great little studio. We like your setup, mate.
We're looking at putting a tent at the back here.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen our studio, it's cool. It's well set out. He's got a bit of land here, and we're thinking, do you know what?
I'm sure we can
get a marquee, yeah. I'm sure his neighbours will be all right.
Yeah, it's a great way to piss them off anyway, guys. Great way to piss them off. Now, I want to know from how the three of you first met, and at what point did you decide to form this collective?
Oh, it goes back. I mean, okay, so in the beginning, me and Paul, technically, we go back.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. How long would you say? 20 years?
Yeah.
20 years. That, yeah. Okay, you probably... I forget how old I am.
I'm not going to drop
sorry,
you in
mate.
it, bro.
Sorry, No ages will be mentioned.
Yeah.
Anyway, so me and Paul probably go back 25 years, let's say. Yeah. Well, I'll put an extra 5 years on that.
Yeah.
And Dan, I've probably known Dan now, well, obviously since we've been doing audio tech.
Yeah.
Paul's known Dan a lot longer.
Yeah, I've known Dan, a good time as well, man, working together and stuff, and we just connect, like, I always, when we had the ideas with audio tech, and me and Mark are doing it, I was, trying to get Dan involved, you know what I mean? So that's what happened.
All friends with similar passions.
You're spot on, Dan.
On it, yeah.
I mean, like Dan's just said, I don't know whether the Mark's picked him up, but basically we've all got the same drive and all got the same passion for the goals and where we want to take the brand and what we believe in. We believe in the same thing, so it's like, okay, we're all moving in the same direction, and that's what's good about the dynamic. Would you agree?
I mean, there's like so many people doing like loads of different stuff, and I always say fair play to everyone that really does have a go at doing it. It's so hard, it really is. There's so many things, that moving parts, that, you know what I mean. And I always take my hat off to anyone they put their event on, they see it through, and they enjoy it. But we've always looked at it as, if we had something that was happening regularly in this county, and this county deserves something like this, in our eyes, we've always thought that. So that's where Parklands has sort of developed into this, like, and as well as our other events that we do, which are still well cool, and
definitely
they're all like, out there and random places, but the Parklands one has always been our vision. I think both lads agree that we want to give something that's there every year. We want to make sure, and every year keep on developing it and making it different. No Parklands will be the same as
the reoccurring big one.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think, like, with you guys and audio tech on a whole, like, I've always said this with audio tech, like, you guys push boundaries. Do you know what I mean? Like, you step out of the box. You're not your average rave, your average festival. There's always a twist with audio tech, and that's what I like to, that's what I love about you guys, and how united you are as well in the music. So you can choose to answer this individually or, together, but let's see who's got some of the best stories here. I want to know, have you always been involved in the EDM scene, or have you guys had any other involvement in genres before?
I'll start, and then basically what I'll do, because we've all got our own perspective on it, so I think if I try and be as brief as possible, and then I'll pass it on to Paul and let Dan have his bit. But
see, I think personally, this is where we find out that Paul's been in a rock band.
yeah.
No, not a rock band.
You have, haven't you?
And Dan once applied to go on ABBA, but you know we won't talk
I was
about
on
that.
the Oasis scene, and that was happening, mate. That was it. That was ace. Yeah, them times were great.
As far as I know, none of us have ever been into anything other than dance music. Don't get me wrong, I think, you know, I'm not speaking for you, Paul, but I am. Paul loves a bit of sort of Oasis and all that. So your alternative side, you know, and I suppose we've all got our own genres that we like away from EDM, but I think the majority, we're all EDM, and we...
Yeah, I mean, I do like... I do have like a... You know, like with me, with music, it's always, I don't know, like, you know, if it's rocking and it's making you go, then I'm on it, like, obviously to a certain level. But, you know, sometimes like hip hop stuff, like, you know, when we were around, when we were younger, we had the vibes of like, you know, Snoop and Dre and NW, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and then, you know, like, but then you had the other influences with the guitars, like we said, the Oasis and bands like that, you know, that I love listening to acoustic, some great artists out there, quality, you know, over the years. But
Absolutely, yeah. Do you guys remember your first rave that you attended, and where was it?
Oh, that's a mad one.
Come on, get your thinking cap on.
Yeah, exactly. That is some serious thinking cap, simply because of my age. I'm winding back the years now, but I think one of my first raves was, can we say memorable?
Absolutely.
Can we go memorable?
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah.
My most memorable rave was going back to the free party scene, and it was Castle Morton.
Okay, right.
Do you remember Castle Morton? Do you know
I know
the
of
history
it. I
about
know of it. Yeah.
So, you know, organised by a lot of sound systems, 25,000 people. Obviously an unlicensed rave down in Malvern. I spent a week down there, loved every minute of it. Spiral Tribe, obviously. DIY, Circus, Time Warp, and the list goes on. And that was probably one of my most memorable raves, because of, you're never going to see that again. You know, there was a lot of politics that came out of that, you know, the criminal justice bill, without getting too political, but, you know, the government was like, okay, we don't want this to happen again. We're now going to bring in a law that stops this from happening, and hence the criminal justice bill, which, you know, again, let's not get political, because I could go on forever about all
Party
that kind
poopers,
of stuff.
no.
But yeah, that's probably my most memorable. I'll pass you on to Paul.
Yeah, what you saying, Paul? What's your first memorable rave?
Well, we had a few in Wellington at Tambank. There was some really cool ones there at
Obsession,
Raw and that. Yeah,
Raw,
Obsession.
Obsession.
They were like some like cool raves there. We really enjoyed, and I mean, I remember some of the ones that we used to go up the Wrekin as well, and you know. What
was one of your first ones? You know, like sort of the bigger commercials. You know, was it sort of, you know, Pandemonium or any of the?
Yeah, it was like I say, that one of them ones that we went to. I think we went to one in Milton Keynes. I think we went to one in Manchester. We went all over. That time was quite sort of like hazy a bit and enjoying fun, but it was good. Yeah, we had some good time.
First one that springs to mind is probably the Renaissance. That was the first big one that I remember.
See, Dan was quick on the ball there because he had time to think.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There was two people ahead of him. He had time to think.
That's the first one that I can remember anyway.
I love that. I'm going to start the questions from left to right next time.
That's what I think.
Yeah. It's probably the Renaissance. I think it was in Staffordshire somewhere.
Okay. Do you guys think that rave helped to change the way that you viewed music or nightlife on a whole?
Well, yeah, because I mean, if I say my bit, basically, rave back in, I don't know, 1985 or the late 80s it changed a generation. You know, I'm genuinely proud to have been part of that. You know, it wasn't a case of it's something you did at weekend. It's you lived your life around rave. You know, you actually, back in the day, you classed yourself as, your title was, you're a raver.
Mm-hmm.
And you lived and breathed that shit. Sorry about swearing that.
No, it's raw and uncut, mate. You do what you do.
So you lived and breathed being a raver back in the day, you know, and the scene was all about sort of as one. I know that sounds a bit cliche and stuff, but it was. If you were a raver, you were accepted, and it wasn't a case of your general, and all of this. There was no politics involved. You were just a raver, and you went to the raves.
Yeah.
And you could go somewhere. I mean, we used to travel up, like Paul just said, up and down the country all the time, every weekend. We'd often go out on a Thursday, and we wouldn't come back till a Monday, and then we'd do it all again the next week.
God.
And that happened for probably 10, 15 years. It was a very, very long time, and then things started obviously changing. The scene started changing, but because you got to remember, back in the day, I'm sure you recall, it was one scene almost. It was just rave, and then obviously it started segmenting into like your drum and bass, all that kind of stuff.
Jungle, it was that's the start.
But your influence. I mean, rave always had a heavy influence on jungle, etc. But it was just rave, you were going to a rave. Half the time, I mean, you used to look at the lineup and go, oh yeah, brilliant, da-da-da-da, he's playing. But half the time, you'd look at the lineup and it was irrelevant, in my opinion. Yeah. You were going to a big rave where you were going with loads of people, and you were just going to have a really, really good night.
This is what I love about raving. It's been a while since I've actually attended a rave as a raver, it's always been work for me nowadays. But yeah, it's mad, no matter what you've got going on in that working week, because life brings stresses, man. Yeah. And it's something beautiful seeing ravers on a dance floor just letting go, do you know what I mean? Letting go of all the emotions, everything, and just putting everything to one side for them few couple of hours. It's a beautiful thing, mate. But what I want to know is, what got you into going to raves in the first place? Was it the music or was it the scene in general?
Yeah, well, just I think just the way that we all used to look forward to going out, with stuff. It's something that I'm not when you're a young lad. That them times it was just you sort of did whatever you did in the week to build to that, because that was the thing you all got to see. And like Mark was saying, it's like you'd go to these clubs and after a while you'd get to see some faces and they'd be like, oh, you're all right. And there's always like a community thing going on. And we used to love doing that, going to different places.
It was a culture. It was a culture, and I'm not saying the culture has changed now, but it has. But like I said earlier, it's fragmented into different genres and all of that kind of stuff. But back then, it was a way of life.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. Raving was a way of life, simple as, really.
Yeah, we used to just different places that we go to. Like I say, it would just be wicked.
From one night to the next.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So I know you mentioned obviously there was no specific DJ, when you looked at a lineup it was just a rave, do you know what I mean? But can you remember any of the particular DJs that were smashing it back then, or any particular tracks that really resonate with you when you listen to them today? You can kind of put yourself way back there.
Oh, I mean, there's so many. I mean, you can talk about sort of times when Sasha was playing when he was 50 quid a pop. Now you'd be playing a couple of zeros onto that, if not more. So there's lots of different there's loads of variance in that. Okay. You could say Carl Cox. I could look at all your posters on your wall. By the way, for the listeners, Ad's got a load of posters on his wall with some amazing DJs on, and I can pick on them and I go, you know what, whoever, whether it be Randall or whatever, there's lots of different DJs that we used to see back who are really relevant back then, who are still on the scene now. But back then, you would really look. You might be into techno, so there might be, I don't know, who is it? Trevor Rockcliffe.
Or Colin Dale.
Or Colin Dale, he's playing, Colin Dale's played Parklands last year.
He's brilliant.
Trevor Rockcliffe
really cool
is
guy.
now playing Parklands this year. So depending on what genre, because whilst I got back to it was a rave you used to go to, you always had your favourite DJs.
Yeah.
You always had your favourite DJs, but
genres.
It's genres,
like jungle and stuff like that, the drum and bass. I always remember Buckham and Conrad when they come, and that sound, you know what I mean. That was this is a wicked sound. I used to love listening to them. Yeah, some of the hardcore side of it is like you say, Top Buzz and people like that as well. Rat Pack, you know what I mean? These are all Alternate that you were playing earlier. Awesome, Mark Archer. Well, when they were playing, you're like, no way, these are on, and you'd be buzzing like
Got
that.
me into dance music in the first place was, I think, Mark Archer's.
Mark Archer, yeah, man. And
Mark
the fact that he's
Archer-
still relevant now as well is just amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
he's a lovely guy, Mark. is, man.
Absolutely. So, do you know what? I mean,
Shout out to Mark Archer.
Yeah, shout out to
Big
Mark
shout out,
Archer.
man.
I remember, Ad, I know obviously you're quite closely linked with him. Excuse me, but one of the best times I ever saw Mark Archer, and he'll tell you all the stories, and I'm sure it's on a few bios of his, is when they had there was a place called Shelley's in Stoke, and they pulled up in a lorry, pulled the curtain side back, and then did an impromptu rave on the car park.
Wow.
That was, and obviously they were all in the gear, the masks and all that kind of stuff, but that was next level. The car park obviously went off, as you would think, and it all got shut down, but yeah, that was something else as well.
What I
Back in
like
the
about
day.
Mark Archer is like he's very deep and cemented within the scene, but he always has got time for people. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how kind of me and him have connected. I've got a good friend called Corky who comes to a lot of the raves, and he came to the audio tech that you guys did at Firefly in Oaken Gates when Mark Archer was down there.
Yeah.
To see Corky behind the decks, man, reliving his youth behind Mark Archer was just amazing, you know. But from that, like, I dropped him a message because, like, I'm one of these you don't ask, you don't get. The worst he can say is no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, I dropped him a message and I was like, Corky, who's a big fan of yours, it's his birthday soon. Is there any chance you could do him a little shout? Bro, he did me a personalised video of himself saying happy birthday. And not only that, he then gave Corky a personalised alternate slip map for his turntables.
See, that's all
Do you know what I mean?
top
He didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I've got back
That's
some
the heart,
respect
you
for
see
him.
what I mean? He's a top guy, isn't he? So,
But you know, the thing is with Mark, he because he's old school, he's still got those old school values.
Yeah.
You know, where he remembers not what it was like, but he understands the importance of, you know, not just being a DJ. He understands that it's a lot bigger than that. You know, all of these DJs are all good and well, but they're nothing without the people who are supporting them, buying the records, and, you know, paying to gigs to go to see him. So, you know, he's not forgot that.
Definitely. Can you think of any random moments from back in these raving days that still make you laugh now that you'll kind of never forget?
No comment.
Oh,
No
God.
comment. Mate, how long have you got? How long have you got?
Is that a separate podcast completely?
Yeah,
Oh,
mate,
man.
that's a totally
Trust
separate
me.
podcast. But yeah,
The Obsession Beach one.
the Obsession Beach one here. Look, there's so many great moments and maybe not so many great moments, but yeah,
They were good, though.
they were all
time,
good.
man.
We all, you know, yeah. Let's just leave it there.
Would you class these like... Would you say that a rave was a turning point in you guys' lives or just a good night out to you?
As in back in the day.
Absolutely, back in the day, yeah.
No, it was, yeah, like Dan just said, it was, I'll pick on what I said earlier, it was a way of life. It wasn't just a night out. You lived and breathed it, you know, from the flyers. You know, I know this is going to sound daft, and I can't speak for everybody else, but one thing you always look forward to is coming out after a rave, and then you'd always have the flyer guys, and they'd give you flyer packs, and it'd be like, what one have you got? Yeah, what one have you got?
yeah.
And then you'd buy your tape packs, and then you'd swap them with everybody, and, you know, and then they'd go missing for a month. And
See, isn't it mad, Mark?
You wouldn't get them back. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it true?
Paul's got half of them. You can tell he's got half of them.
Billy used to all polished and stuff.
Isn't it mad though? Like I was saying this to someone else, a past guest. Isn't it crazy that like there's a generation out there now that don't know the vibe of having a crisp tape pack in your hand, feeling gutted because your mate's lent the best one and he doesn't know where it is.
The
Do you know
best
what I mean?
ones out of there. Like,
Absolutely. And there was always like, you'd always open that tape pack. For me, I'd always open the tape pack and it'd be like, right, I'm going to grab Nicky Black Markets because that's going to be a 30, you know, that's going to be filth. And there was always ones that I'd probably not really tend to go to. But there's a generation out there that don't really recall going into record shops.
No.
You know, I bought my first slamming vinyl
Ruby
ticket
Reds,
at
man.
Vision Records in Wellington. Do you remember Vision?
Records.
So Vision, I got my first
Langlands.
slamming vinyl ticket. I wasn't even 18. I was flapping it getting this ticket, but like, you know, people don't actually remember these things because it's just crazy, you know. And same with like the pirate radio, because obviously I came up through pirate radio, and it was like one tone if you want the reload, and shouting out the Nokia 402 number. And,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Do you
like,
remember, do you know, right, going back onto pirate radio, I know obviously you were heavily involved in Dimension. I used to listen to Dimension in the professional.
Midlands Rush mainly, mate. Midlands
Well,
Rush. Rush
Midlands
FM.
Rush, yeah, sorry. Did you know we were behind, and you probably don't recall it, and I won't mention the guys who were involved, but they're Telford lads. We did Underground FM.
Oh, really?
101.9.
As if. I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, we
I didn't
did.
know that.
We probably did it about 3 years before, obviously, Dimension and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of backstory in it where, you know, the licensing got involved and they took down, you know how it works with the links.
DTI.
All that. Yeah. Anyway, they had a few doors, you know, the bottom line, I'll speak how it is, but they had a few doors off and they took all our links. And it started getting really moody with, you know, what we were doing and how we were doing it, because we were reaching, you know, it's funny listening to J-Dubs the other week, they used to drive up the Wrekin. We did as well.
Right.
That's what but you know what we used to do? And now I felt your pain because you actually talked about the car that struggled to get up.
Yes, the 205, Monty's 205.
So get this, you know what we used to drive up in?
What's that?
A 3.5 ton skirt inside a van.
Serious?
Imagine that.
Oh my
Now this is a big box van, you know, and we used to drive it up the Wrekin, park there, and mate, honestly,
good times.
We did it probably for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it was ace. We weren't professional at it. We just used to have a load of DJs in the back of this curtain inside van, and we used to just pound it out on a Saturday and on a Sunday or whatever.
Love that.
And do you know what? Honestly, it started getting too big.
Yeah.
It started getting too big, and then the DTI got involved, and then, you know, we lost one of our links, and they had a door off, and we were like, maybe it's time to sort of stop this kind of thing. It's getting a bit sort of...
And that shows like the level of progression with music, because like I said, back when I was doing pirate radio, we'd go to crack dens, we'd go to tower blocks in Wolverhampton, you know, squash into a bathroom for fuck's sake with turntables just to get our sound out there. Whereas nowadays they can just click live from any place they're at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they can just go live, no drama, no worry of the DTI or anything like that. And yeah, it's a bit of a mad feeling, to be honest. And like with Midlands Rush, when we were doing that, like we'd have prisoners of the Dana prison doing shout outs to different wings, and we'd be passing messages for different wings and that. You know what I mean? It's the progression of music has definitely changed.
Connective, like, of it all.
Definitely. Now, how would you describe the vibe of the rave scene when you first got involved compared to currently now?
It's obviously hard. It's definitely changed, but you know, if you look at the rave scene how it was back in the day when it first started, it was the whole culture. It was everything about it, you know, everything about it. And now it's obviously changed. The music's changed, you know. Even the music's changed. The people have changed. The whole culture has changed. But I'm not going to sit here and be one of them guys that says, "Oh, do you know what? We had it great," because even the younger people now who are going to raves every weekend or whatever they're doing, or listening to certain DJs, they're living their best lives. We just older now and maybe don't see it as much. But I think it's definitely changed. It had to. The scene had to change. You know, because nothing can start and then be the same at the very end. No. It has to change. It
evolves.
It has to adapt. And you know, look, let's face it. I will go out all out on this and say the UK held the hat with regards to raves. Yeah. You know what? If you some of the best raves, the rave culture, you know, when we look at house and you can say, yeah, Chicago, you know, and it all came from sort of that sort of genre or that sort of geographic. Sorry. When you look at the UK, we created, in my opinion, the rave scene.
And I still think we are generally flying the flag now. Like, my boy over in Florida, I've got a good friend over there, a producer, drum and bass, and he plays out in Miami, and like, to hear that he plays out on a beach in Miami, it's like, whoa, that's goals, man. I'd love to do that. And, you know, I'm hoping to get out there someday. Yeah. But he's gagging to come over here. He wants to hear the UK, he wants to get in a UK drum and bass rave, you know. Yes. He just wants to soak it all up.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm thinking, well, you've got Miami where you're playing on beaches and open clubs. This is fucking amazing. But yeah, he wants to kind of experience the roots, and the roots lie within the UK.
I totally agree.
I think that, like what you've just said, it's definitely like that new experience feeling, like, you know, that the naivety when you're in that moment. I think everyone that goes out and they start going out and they're exposed to it and they enjoy it in their own way, and then like now there's loads of choice and there is like different areas you can go down and get lost in, but obviously the vibe, I think, is still there. Like, it's the love, everyone. It's always been about, for us, that acceptability of everyone. Just come, have a good time.
100%.
Leave your bad heads or your bad. I know that there's vibe, whatever. But when you're coming out, just come and enjoy. And I think that's still there from that time then to now.
That's it. Yeah,
that's a good point.
And I like to look at I'll look at the old, like that flyer behind you, the Pandemonium 1991 Telford Ice Rink. I look at these videos because I was only a nipper back then. Do you know what I mean? I didn't get to experience them things. I came through on the Pandemonium relaunch when they were doing the Rainbow Wear Race and that the second time around. But the original ones, obviously, I was only a nipper. But I look back on the YouTube clips of that and I look at all the people and the vibe and the tracksuits and the shell suits, not the tracksuits, the shell suits. And I just look at it and I think, do you guys that attended them raves week in, week out did you know at the time just how monumental these raves would become?
No, well, we didn't, did we? That's what I mean. We knew we were involved in something, a new wave or a new scene. We knew that. And by the way, big up to Mark Chamberlain, Pandemonium and Dorksy.
Yeah.
We've got to remember that these guys were instrumental. Yes, okay, they were Telford lads. But they were instrumental in creating that scene that I talked about sort of earlier. Yeah. They were the guys. So there's a lot to be said. Definitely, there's a lot to be said. Telford, to say it's gone backward, it hasn't, but it's just segmented now. That's all it is. But back in the day, you talk about Pandemonium. Back in the day, you were known from the top of England to the bottom of England.
Mm-hmm.
That's and you think. Couple of Telford lads, couple of Telford lads.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's still talked about now.
It is.
Yeah.
No, I generally agree with you there. Now, Paul's kind of answered my next question, because what I was going to say was, as the sense of community or connection among ravers changed over time, but you said yourself, Paul, that the sense of community is still very much there.
I see it all the time. I mean, with what we do. I love it. When you hear about some of the stories of people. Oh, this is my first one, and then you see them again the next time, and they're bringing friends, and that's what is what we've always wanted is for people to know that it's a good night to come and enjoy.
All right, so answer me this then, Paul. Yeah. Answer me this. Do you think the core values of rave culture, like your plur, peace, love, unity, respect, still holds up today?
Well, I think I'd like to hope within people everyone has that inside them, and they all want to look out for each other. They all want to, enjoy the time and space together, but respectfully and all that. But also, I still think people have definitely got that love and all of that. I mean, I think people sometimes want to capture it a bit more on their phones and stuff now, and get a bit more of a media document going along with what they're doing. But
it's got to be a bit more of a show these days, hasn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's like for me, it's just moments. Sometimes you can't capture them, and they are getting more and more getting captured now, and we've been on about it as well as. Like some of the sets that we're playing, recording some of them and being able to, because like what you spoke about with the tape thing, and that did make me think about a bit of it. It's like some of the sets we've had playing, we'd love to be able to go, listen to that again, and so that is definitely something
I can always remember being on a lineup back in the day in Shrewsbury. This was like years and years and years, probably close to 20 years ago, when we had I think it was Hype. We might have had Hype, and it was at the time where we were getting the crowd to really roar because we were recording these sets on the low. So I got a bit involved, and I'm like, make some noise for the tape pack. Promoter comes from the back of the decks. No. Hype doesn't know we're recording it. Hype doesn't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully Hype doesn't land on this. But if you do, that promoter's folded now. So good luck.
We get a lot of it, even in a lot of the contracts. What you have to sign, they say no pre-recording, da-da-da. You have to get it all signed off now. When it's really. Do you know what?
It's just the moment. It's like what we were saying before. Like when you listen to the tape back, it's like you're talking about that tape, and I'm going back a little bit on it, but like when we used to go to places like Quest, and you would have like a random market stall right in the middle of a nightclub, just selling tapes and random stuff and. Computer games as well, like random stuff, and like
It's mad, isn't it? In my drawer in my front room, one of my tapes fell out today. Actually, funny enough, and it was like Mickey Finn and Bassman Acid House 92 or something. Do you know what I mean? And you look at it and you're just like, wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? I don't even know how I got that recording, but it's there. You know?
The worst one I ever had was you had your favourite tape and you played it because you did, and then you'd put it in. For those that are too young, we once had tape decks in cars. Yeah. Anyway, you'd put your tape in.
And ashtrays.
And ashtrays, yeah.
You actually had them on planes. I mean, imagine that one.
On the buses, get the ashtrays on the buses.
So you'd press eject on your tape and you'd pull it out slowly and you'd see it all reel out and you'd be like, no. So then you'd stop the car, pull it all out, and then obviously your tape is crinkled. And you know from that day on, that tape is screwed because you're going to put it back in.
I mean, you can get the biro and wind it up a bit, can't you?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
But you know what? If you know from the history, you'll put the tape in because it crinkles and that's it. It'll get caught on it. It's gone.
That's it. And then there was the evolvement of CD packs, and they were churning out these CD packs, and like the cost on these CD packs was very, very cheap for what they were asking. So the CD qualities was shite. You know what I mean? And like after 20 or 30 plays, they'd start skipping and jumping. Like, but again, with hardware, with tapes, you know, I can put a tape on now and there's just that authentic sound of these tapes, man, that matches no other. Do you know what I mean?
I think vinyl has that as well, you know.
I agree.
When you hear vinyl play, I mean, I'm sure I'm not a DJ, but in all the DJs that I've used vinyl, there's like always that different sound that they love.
It's that authentic crackle as well. You can't beat it.
Analog.
Yeah. And I'm proud to say now that I've raised my daughter, who's 16 now, and she's got a love for vinyl. Do you know what I mean? She's got a turntable in her bedroom, and she will favour playing vinyl over playing Spotify. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
She's got that appreciation for it. I mean, that girl was raised in raves. Like, to be honest with you, my wife was carrying my daughter while she was coming to the raves to watch me. Do you know what I mean? So I always say to my girl, I'm like, you were literally in the womb at raves with sound systems with Ragga Twins on and everything. You know? So I hope that one day she'll learn to appreciate just what Dad's been doing in the scene.
She will. She will.
At the moment, she's 16 though. It's embarrassing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mate, trust me, she'll know one day that her dad's definitely like a cool dude.
I hope so,
doing
bro.
this
I hope
stuff,
so.
man. Trust me.
So, guys, is there any
sound?
is there any sounds or styles that you miss that you think have faded from the scene since way back?
I'll start off and I'll say not really, because the sound and the style, obviously hardcore is sort of, to say hardcore's teetered off, it hasn't. You know, you could say the same about trance, it hasn't. It's just segmented. It's just all now segmented. Would you agree?
Genres are a little bit different. Like bass, like drum and bass has become like liquid we know it as now.
Yeah, but then different.
It's just drum and bass.
Then there's like
we know it as liquid.
Yeah, no, but it's. I think there's a lot of different stuff now.
Like
music
houses.
has so changed. You've got the progressive house, and you've got your tech house, and in that sort of area. And then you've got house, funky house. Do you know? And then you've got, like you said, with the drum and bass, the liquid, the jumper, all the.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's like so many different variations. The bass line of it, like there's like.
Yeah,
I mean,
speed bass and
speed bass. Garage has changed as well now.
So
They're doing speed garage.
It's still there, Ad. It's still there. It's just in different.
They're evolving.
Yeah, it's just different. It's just in different segments. You know,
whatever people are jumping to and they're loving, you sort of seeing that's gravitating. I mean, I remember a few years ago, everyone was going mad for dubstep. They were all loving it.
Where's that gone now, man?
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know,
it's been integrated into drum and bass.
It has.
Yeah, I agree.
It gained a little bit of that scene, didn't it?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of people, you know, you've got the underground raves and the underground festivals. I don't know if you've got underground festivals, but you've definitely got the more commercial festivals and then the lesser known festivals. But I'm interested to know, do you think rave culture loses something when the events become more corporatized or mainstream?
well, yeah, because they have to advertise for the masses, don't they? So,
True.
you know, let's not get, you know, start picking on who are the commercial side of each brand, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Everyone does what they do, man.
But, you know, no. What I'm saying is, you know, I could pick on a certain artist, you know, and I heard you talking to Slim 4D. Have I got that name right? Sorry, mate.
You ready?
Go on.
It's Slimify D.
Slimify D. I'm sorry for pronouncing your name wrong. But anyway.
Serves him right for having an abnormal name, innit? You know what I mean? I'm not being funny. I'm called Dribbz, Dribbz, you name it. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I should just be called Ad.
Oh, we can see Dribbz.
MCAD.
You can get that wrong.
But no, what he pulled sold up on sort of pendulum, and so what I'm saying is, if you want to market your event to certain people, if you like, you'll pick the big commercials, and that's it. Whereas like you've got, say, for instance, Boomtown. They're big on drum and bass, and they've got a good underground feel.
We love Boomtown, man.
But
we love their concept. It's
they'll
brilliant.
still go on. I don't hate using the word commercial. I don't want to.
The lights match the music. It's not done there and then. That's all pre-recorded. So it's gone commercialised at that point, hasn't it?
Definitely.
But yeah, there's a lot commercial in the scene. There is the littler raves or your smaller events, smaller festivals are a bit more underground. But at the end of the day, when you're doing an event, you've got to sell tickets. So you've got to look at, right, okay, some people aren't genuine from the heart. It's all about the money. Sadly, that's how it is. But you know what? We live in a commercial world, and everything's got to be viable. Would you agree?
Yeah.
But so the answer to that is,
I mean,
the difference in commercial to underground is massive.
I mean, we went to a festival a few years ago now. I think it was before COVID, wasn't it? Noisily.
Noisily. Yeah.
Shout out to Noisily. They're awesome, by the way. It was an awesome festival, but they've had a vibe there. And when we were there, we loved how, and it was like a definite influential sort of thing to look at and go, some really cool concepts here.
But it was really underground, Dad.
Underground,
really underground.
And that's what we liked with it. But yeah, I mean, and we found out recently that they've had real issues because obviously.
Well, what happened, Dad? I mean, you talk about commercialism. Like all event companies or the industry per se, whether it could be anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be dance music, but just events and people spending money on events, on tickets, etc. They really suffered financially. So they sold, and again, this is when we'll talk about commercialism. Yeah. They sold 51% of their shares to One Nation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, how One Nation mop up all the events, and basically. So they went to do the Noisily this year. I've got to be careful here because
we don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah. But basically, we
just found out.
Yeah. So basically, they pulled the event. One Nation pulled the event, and there's nothing Noisily can do about it because One Nation owned 51% of their shares.
Wow.
And it's awful because if you look at the commercialism, there's your commercialism.
Yeah. Definitely.
There's your commercialism.
Because I think if the guys that were doing it before, they would have just gone ahead probably, but because obviously they probably got other involvement.
Yeah.
It's now it's took out of your hands, and I think that's something we've always said. Mm-hmm. We would always we would always want it to be. It's our decision with everything that we do to do with it. I mean, the actual running of it, we will talk later about, but there's loads of people that are involved in that. But obviously the decisions of this sort of stuff, we always want to keep it with us.
Absolutely.
So we can,
we've been offered, Dad. We've been offered various deals, if you like, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but with other brands, and they've said, look, we can do this for you, and we was like, okay, yeah, we'll never dismiss it, and we'll listen and show it that respect that it's due.
Definitely.
And of late, we've had people knocking on the door saying, we can offer you some sponsorship, blah blah blah, and we sat back, we talked about it, because don't get me wrong, all coffers help, especially in a market that we're in, and we actually went, do you know what? Maybe now's not the time. We want to carry on running it how we do it. I'm never going to say never, but at the moment we're like, we don't want to know about any sponsors.
Yeah.
No, I get that. You mentioned about the feeling of coming out of the raves and like the flyer man obviously handing you the latest flyers and that. And I remember that myself. Like, I'd always be quite excited because you come out of the rave, go back to, say if God forbid one of your friends is driving and he's totally driving not under the influence and totally sober.
Yeah. We get where you're coming
from. But obviously you'll get to the car and like where the window wipers are, there'll just be a fresh pack of flyers, and you'll be fucking dead excited to know what they are. And they'd always, I don't care what anyone says, back in the day, like if you went to these and you experienced these flyers in your hand, because they're worth their weight in gold as well, man. You know what I mean? Like these flyers now, they don't tend to get printed as much as they did. People will just social media, whack a sponsor on it, jobs are fucking good, and do you know what I mean? But there's nothing better than having a flyer in your hand. Do you know what I mean? And like nowadays, it seems to have just it's quickly starting to lose its memento. And what I want to ask you is, do you think social media has changed the way raves are promoted and experienced? Yeah,
definitely, in a good and a bad way. You know, at the end of the day, costings obviously saving, but it's social media is great, but on the same side, it can be a negative because it's like, you know, when you go to the rave, you've got the promotion side of it. It's all good for that, but when you go to the rave, people want to be on that social media. People want to hold their phones up and show that they're at that rave, and it's so. You know, on that perspective, there's always been a big thing for the last few years. People up with their phones, you know, we should ban phones from raves and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, social media has had a massive impact on the scene. Full stop.
I think like the flyer thing, like, you know, like what you were saying with it. You know, people used to love having them, and I still think that there's a place for flyers. You know, people have. It's just like you say. It's just when you got to promote something, is to actually get them printed out. And we have actually tried to bring a few out a bit more, just to mix it, because we think that, like you say, there's nothing that can not help. You know what I mean with stuff. So all
goes towards it.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, 100%.
Hi everyone, this is Baby D, and you're listening to the Dribbz Talks Podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
Do you think the scene has become more inclusive, or do you think exclusivity has quickly crept in?
I think it's, from my perspective, I'll say I think it's still inclusive, 100% still inclusive, because, you know, you can't have a scene, whether it be, it's not just the dance scene, any scene, you've got to be inclusive, because if you're not, then one, you alienate part of a market, but you've got to be inclusive.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas years ago, that word, like you've just said, inclusive, it wasn't even a thing.
No.
You know, inclusive wasn't even a word that people used to band about. It was just, you know, doesn't matter what race you was or ethnic. It didn't matter, did it? Didn't matter. No. You know, you can look at the videos, you know, like you just said about the pandemonium, and you'll look at it and you'll go, wow, look at everybody, all different.
Yeah, there's every creed there, man.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? And they're just there. They're just in the moment.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned before we went on air about some of the hoops you guys have to jump through to get these events off the ground, and that is working with, you know, authorities, police, everything. Now, do you think authorities have become more accepting of the scene, or is it still quite stigmatised? You know, rave trouble. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. I mean, if you'd have gone back, even 10 years ago, you trying to get events, they were very stigmatised for whatever reason, because if you look back in the later part of raves, you know, a bit of trouble, a bit of moodiness came into it, so the authorities were very sceptical about what they did, what they allowed, how long they allowed clubs to open, and what licenses they would grant, and so on and so forth. So, but I think now I don't want to use the word commercial, but they understand the commercial side of it. They understand that there's a generation of people who want to go out, and it doesn't necessarily mean they want to go out and absolutely get off their heads. You know, they just want, because they like dance music. You know, to be fair, what you've got to think of now, a lot of the councillors or a lot of other people, authorities, if you like, they probably go home and blast a tune on and put do you know? So, but
our generation,
exactly, the generation has kind of moved on from the whole sort of tweed kind of scenario.
Yeah, it was a different world.
It's a different world, so, yeah. Like, so yeah, definitely we think it's opened up.
I mean, you know what? Me and Monchi still experience that in 2025. Like, there is, I'm not going to name the venue, but there's a certain venue in Shrewsbury that isn't the butter market, let me tell you. Big up the butter market crew. Yeah. There's a certain venue in Shrewsbury that don't want and don't take on MCs. If there's an MC performing, then it's a complete no-go. And I've asked the question why, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, they're full of attitude. Well, listen to me and Monchi's lyrics, because there's not a single bit. It's all unity, do you know what I mean? And powerful messages is what we try to send. And people can get it twisted sometimes, that just because you're an MC, then you've got to have this persona of being some fucking bad boy attitude.
No, we get that. I mean, you see it from a performer's side of things, and I can totally relate, or we can totally relate. What we've had that sort of objection against, you know how we operate. We work on different venues, all outdoors, so we'll work with different landowners, and we've had like, oh no, we don't want that rave. We don't want that rave, you know. We don't want that. Yeah. We don't want that.
But if you come with a different sort of, then it would be a different thing. And it's like that.
They've said, oh, but we'll allow you to play a disco or motor. And do you know what? I'll actually, Paul will tell you how passionate I am about it, and I'm like, okay, let's leave this venue. Yeah. Let's not even entertain talking to these people anymore, because one way to rub me up is to sort of blast a music because of their sort of their own.
I mean, we've actually been lucky. We've been lucky enough to, like, you know, come across a lot of different, like, guys that have had places for us to do events at, and you know, after an event or you know, we've done an event, sometimes it's not worked out. That we've never left it with a total, but we just sort of see, well, obviously they've just got a different viewpoint of what.
Do you know what they'll always? No,
like, but,
you know what they'll always say. Like, let's say, for instance, we've come across and they've gone, "Oh, we don't want that again." What they'll always say in the second breath is, "That was well run."
It was,
and you know
they
what?
said, like, it was professional.
So
everything.
The bias is against the music.
Just,
and that hurts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It does. It's like.
But I always try to say, like, you know, what you say is, in a way, I try to say it to Mark, always, let's not take it personal, because not everyone's the same. We get it. So we just have to keep looking and finding, and like-minded people do come up, and we just keep finding different places. And
is there anything from the past that you wish that the current scene would bring back? Now, for me, you do have these now and again, but it was standard back in the day. It's whistles and horns, man. Like, that added a vibe. I know it might be annoying when, you know, Karen's decided you're blowing her horn all night, like, but to listen back to that on a recording, you know, like the tapes we're talking about, when you hear the horns and the whistles on the breakdowns, and it's fucking beautiful, like, but you don't get that no more, you know what I mean? It's, is there anything else that you think's missing? That
there's probably loads, but that's a good point, you know, the whistles and the horns, but there was loads back in the day. If you think back in the day,
people used to get, like, painted up with stuff, like, and the gloves.
What about Vicks?
Yeah, the
Vicks Vapor Rub. Do you remember that one, Ad? Do you know that? See, Ad's like, he's shaking his head.
the face mask.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You know what?
There's a long story to
Mark
why.
Archer mentioned this. Mark Archer mentioned this. I feel like this Vicks thing and Top of the Pops come together from a story with Mark about keeping his mask on while playing. Yeah. Okay.
But there's a long story to why you would put Vicks on someone. Do you know what I mean? You know, we won't go down that route. But there's certain stuff, and you think, okay, that's lost. And that's lost, not lost on you, Ad, but, you know, it's like some people don't. If you said to somebody now, "Oh, you were in a rave," and then all of a sudden you'd feel someone come up and they put your hand up the back. Oh, I've had it, and people that come up, and all of a sudden you go, "What are you doing?" And you know what?
I think my luck's in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, depending on who's doing it, mind. But then they're rubbing Vic in the car, just a bit of Vicks on your back, and I'm like, then you get it, and you're like,
right, hang on. Please tell me what's the benefit of having Vicks on your back, man?
It doesn't have to be in your mask. It's
good to inhale.
Yeah, it's basically it seeps into you, and it sort of let's say it aids,
helps you breathe better.
It aids the feeling of when you're at that event.
We'll leave it at that, yeah?
Yeah. It aids that feeling.
Okay, so now we've covered an introduction of yourselves as individuals, and we've explored some of the earlier times of the scene. I think it's about time we get into all things audio tech. So for me, firstly, where did the name Audio Tech come from?
Oh, good question. Audio is obviously what we're about.
Of course.
So, you know, the audio speaks for itself. So it's the sound, all of that kind of stuff.
And the tech is like...
And the tech is, we didn't want to be TECH, because that's the tech side if we were going to be whatever, doing decks or whatever. But tech has got a long history of underground,
true jungle tech,
and the scene. If you look at things now going on in different places, there's various something tech events, and they're all free events. And I think I will go along to the right side. We champion the underground scene. We're massive on the underground scene. It's like, without getting political on it, I don't want to get political on it.
We just say fair play to anyone. At the end of the
exactly. Music, you know what? There's a lot to be said. Let's face it. If you go in the middle of nowhere and you've got a sound system and you want to do a big event, the only ever issue that you'll ever get is by roads being blocked by authorities. If you just let them guys carry on, crack on, have their event and let them go, they don't see what goes on the back end. These crews are spending massive money on sound systems. They're not like they used to be, just sort of demo systems, just raggedy. They're big systems.
Definitely.
They've got people who work with them, they'll clean up afterwards, but they're unlicensed. So I get it. You know what? We've been there many, many years ago. And we learn our lessons, but we're still champion. We're still behind that scene, So I think we took that name Tech because
it's massively with that, but also there's a little touch of it, towards some of the stuff that we have at the events, like the lights, the inflate, anything that the fire, all these little bits and bobs that make it just that bit different.
It definitely gives that, when you walk in visually, it gives it that wow factor. It ain't just a tent with music blasting out. Do you know what I mean? There's more to it. There's an atmosphere around it. People are having pictures in front of the inflatables. It's different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't think off the top of my head anywhere else.
We love that. When I look across and I see people in front of stuff doing photos and that, that is it. And we go in the arenas and everyone's worked so hard to make them really cool, all the stuff we put in there and everything, because
effectively what the ravers see when they get there, that's the final product. You guys have put all that preparation in, but all they see, and we'll get onto that in a minute, but all they see is the final product. They don't see all the hard work that goes into it. And I have got a few, I'm going to touch on that in a minute, but was there any other names that you explored before deciding on Audio Tech?
Thinking back, I don't think there was. I don't think there was. It was just it was just Audio Tech, and I think we stuck with it. We just we stick with Audio Tech. We banded it about, we come up with some designs.
Then we come up with the logo and
then we come up with the logo.
Nice.
There's a bit of a story behind Parkland's
and the logo, the Parkland's name.
Parkland's
that's different.
Name's actually made up out of our names.
Well, sort of.
That was made, sort of.
No way.
Mark put it to a comp, didn't you?
And we got.
We basically asked everybody. We says, look, it's a Talbot Park. What would you call the festival? And then some guy answered back, and he went, look, he said, if you take an anagram of all your names, more or less, he said, this is what it comes up with. And I thought, well, yeah, because it is a park, and it's whatever. So, and that works. So we stuck with it.
Love that.
It's Parklands. It's just that's it. Parklands.
Love that. And obviously, we're going to get into Parklands in a little bit, because obviously that's on the horizon, man. So it would be rude of me not to mention that. Now, normally with some of my guests, I do a whole load of research about them, which helps me write my questions. But with you guys, I've had the pleasure of being involved with Audio Tech and performing on your lineups for quite a few years now. But I'm interested to know, what was your very first Audio Tech event, and how well did it go down?
So that's easy enough to answer, isn't it, really?
Go for it.
Is it Jay's?
The Wrekin.
The Wrekin, sorry, yes. So
it was fun. It was fun.
Do you remember, you know the halfway house ad?
Yeah, we
did the halfway house.
Can I just say, right, with me living, I'm not going to announce where I live, but with me living where I live, get to the end of the street, you've got a nice clear view of the halfway house, right?
Yeah. Could you hear us?
No, I didn't hear you, but I could see the fucking lights coming out. And I remember walking my dog thinking, I want to be there. Why have I not been asked to perform? I want to be there. And I was gutted.
So cool.
Because I'm sure it was a bit intimate. It was a bit
invite
only
it's not very
kind
big,
of thing.
as you very well know, Ad.
We were on the back of COVID pretty much.
We were.
That.
And they didn't have a lot of space, did they? Let's face it. But
no.
And you've got to imagine the transport to get everything up there, whether it be speakers.
It's a lot in it.
It
was fun.
And then you've got to rely on people. getting up there. So basically walking up there in the dark, walking down in the dark, intoxicated.
120, something like up there.
And that was it.
It's enough though, innit? It's enough.
Yeah, that was plenty enough.
Man.
That was plenty.
Cool.
We couldn't have got any more. We had
I'm glad we didn't have more.
Yeah. Loads of people were saying to us, "Oh, we want to come," and we had to turn so many people down. But because we physically couldn't, and we didn't want to burn the venue, and we
needed to learn as well.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
been a big learning curve.
Yeah. But it was a unique venue, and now we've spoke about this already. Sometimes it's not always about the numbers. Sometimes it's about the venue. Have you got the right people there who are into what you're doing? Yeah. And we did, didn't we? We had one marquee, one sound system, a load of DJs, and just a bloody good night, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was good fun. Like I say, the run up to it, it's getting stuff up there. But then we did a few with Jay as well at Catley, and brilliant. Like, big shout to Jay and Charles and that, all the guys there. We had a wicked couple of little moments there, didn't we? Where we just built that up again, and
next to the park.
It's random because if you look at Jay's, do you know Jay Green?
I know of him. I don't know him personally. I know of him.
Big up Jay. But anyway,
big up Jay.
He's got his ace. It's a little cottage down a little dip in the middle of right next to Hadley Manor School.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I do know him. I know his wife as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I worked with her.
So do you know where they live? Down the little
mate.
dip?
Yeah, of course I do.
So they've got.
I used to work at the Hadley School. You see.
There you go. So they've got that bit of land, and we thought we'd come up with this little concept, and we thought. Jay mentioned it, and we thought, do you know what? We could do it. But then you'd have thought, how the hell are you going to put an event on here in the middle of all these housing estates? But you know what? We pulled it off.
Yeah.
I think we had one complaint. The police turned up the once. I showed them the licence that was granted.
Yeah.
And they were on the way. And then we did another one there.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of people putting on, these loads. Again, we talk about social media, the good and bad. There were people coming, oh, did you hear that music? And then there was one person, the right Karen, she was moaning about that she could hear the music. Bearing in mind, we didn't go past, 11 o'clock or something?
Yeah.
But anyway, she was getting a bit whatever, and she got shut down by people who didn't even attend the event. And they were saying, let them enjoy themselves. Let them enjoy it. And there was, for her one complaint, there was probably
loads of people started going around.
Yeah, proper winning on
just
it.
Withdrew it in the end, But yeah.
No, I love that, and big up Jay, because now I put the pieces together.
Yeah.
I remember that happening because
top guys, really top guys, like.
Now, your events, more so Parklands, if I remember rightly, they often support local causes. It's more than just music for you guys, such as the League 8 Community Food Project. How do you choose the charities that you collaborate with, and what impacts have these partnerships had on the community?
Massive. I mean, obviously we did the League 8 Community Food Hub.
That was with the Mother Care, I think.
Yeah, that was all to do with Mother Care.
And then we've also done like what was it with the young girl? What was her name? What was her name? Darcy.
Oh, you've got me now. So you've caught me on the opera.
Darcy. We did like a lot of raising. Like wherever we've had an opportunity to help. We listen and we
did quite a few events for
Darcy,
and we raised thousands for that, didn't we? We did literally, and every time she was like, "I'm really grateful, I'm really thankful," and blah, blah. And it was just like, what, we didn't do it for all the thanks. Obviously, she's going to say thanks, and that's all great. But we did it because why not? Why not be able to do it?
It's a good cause to get behind in it. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like.
Absolutely. If you can do more than just music and make a difference as well, then everyone's all about that, and they're more. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but from a promoter's point of view, they're more inclined to buy a ticket if it's going towards a good cause. Do you know what I mean? I could be wrong in what I'm saying there.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we don't look into it too deep. We're doing what we're doing as far as the donations, because that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
You know what? And we can. Even in a tough market, we think, okay, so if we sell 1,000 tickets, let's say, that's £1,000 that's going to go to somebody who's needing this money than us. No. we need to make our events sustainable. But at the end of the day, regardless, even if we was to break even, do you know what? That £1,000 or whatever would still go to that charity. Still,
regardless of what we make.
And again, for Mind, but what we decided to do, we worked with Mind for quite a while, and then, but we thought, you know what, that old adage of charity starts at home. So we decided that any charities that we work with going forward is always going to be local charities, because I thought they were more deserving.
Yeah, I get that. With the evolving landscapes of the music industry, how do you see the role of grassroots events, organisers like the Audiotech, in shaping the future of the music experience?
I'll say my bit and then I'll pass it on. But the landscape is hard, Ad. The landscape is hard, whether that be what we do. I'm talking big events. I'm not even going to mention them, but we deal with a lot of agents, and I'll speak to different agents about some of these really big events, and they'll say their capacity's down 25%, 40%. So we know it's not just us. We speak to other promoters, and they'll say exactly the same. Yeah, it's peaks and troughs. So yeah, that's my take on it. I mean, what are you thinking? What do you think, Paul?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like, as everyone knows, that things are always tough for people to try and afford to do this, to do that, to balance the books with family life. Man, we've all got family trying to keep going, but you've just got to find that balance to we always think that when we're trying to do pricing and stuff, because we've seen, I'm not going to name it, but I mean, some of the prices you see on some of the tickets and the fest, and I get it. I understand why they're trying to price highly because of all the costings and everything. But then there is an element then of a bit of a grab, a little bit, and I think some of the big price hikes, you think, wow, really? I mean, I'm not going to, but the Oasis stuff, the reunion, ridiculous, honestly. Dynamic pricing for me, do one. It shouldn't be existing.
I almost feel like that reunion. I almost feel like that reunion was always going to happen.
Yeah,
It's always on the books.
But I mean, I'm talking about how the ticket agents got involved with that, and then changed it, manipulated it. I mean, again, I am going to against dynamic pricing because of, I just don't think it's a fair thing. We were talking about going to events and having that independent feeling, and let's make it affordable. How can you go if you're just going to be talking about something? Oh, I'm going to have to save up, for a year to go. It's ridiculous. Crazy, you've got to be able to just. It's got to be affordable, man. Give people a chance to go. And the young guys are out there, and older as well, but younger guys can't get no money to get. So, like I say, it's all about affordability for me with that.
It is all about affordability, and the thing is, Ad, where would any of us be with yourself or even us if without independent events? Would you be as far in your career as,
no way.
Exactly. So this is the point. There's a lot to be said for homegrown events. It's a must. It's a necessity, but. It's a struggle out there. The climate is hard, but that isn't one thing we've always said about us is that even if we have an event, and I won't talk figures, I've already been warned on that. But we've often done events where you could put a deposit on an house. Yeah, would you go that far? Yeah, and you won't get anywhere near that. So you're losing thousands and thousands. But we will never look at an event and go, oh, we've not sold as many tickets as we want, we're going to cancel event. Do you know what? Once we're in, we're balls deep. We're in. We're not ever, and that's one principle we stick to. We are never ever going to cancel an event. You know what? We're in it. That's it. Bottom line.
Yeah. I love that.
So what I'm saying is grassroots events, whether it be a club event, whether it be an outdoor event, key to everything.
They're massive.
Absolutely key to everything.
They're massive for that step along, and not just on promote. I'm on about the artists. These guys, if they haven't got anywhere to start, and then their fans can't afford to come to that night, whatever, then you're almost stopping the beginnings of anyone. And I mean, anyone out there. I mean, I know yourself. You've probably done the same, where you've had a couple of opportunities from somewhere, and then just built it up. And then now it's just and snowball effect.
Absolutely.
But if you never got that first door opening or anywhere, imagine if you were going out and there was nowhere to go. And I think it's really important that all the guys that are coming through and guys that are on the scene have got somewhere that they can go, and it's affordable for people to come to. Like.
Because that's always, let's face it, when we all sat down originally and we talked about Parklands, I know I'm going back to Ad, where you've asked questions on that bit.
No, it's fine.
But one of the major things for us was inclusiveness. So, and I say inclusiveness, probably the wrong word, but to get DJs that don't necessarily always get that opportunity to come through or to play next to their favourite artist. Because one thing we'll always do, we won't dictate on who they play. Let's say, for instance, for Stepping, big up John. But
big up John Price.
We won't say to John, we're going to stick this headliner on. We'll say to John, who do you want? Who do you want? Well, he's booking. He's looking back and going, do you know what? These are my heroes, kind of thing. Or do you know what? I really look up to these DJs within that genre, and I want them. Are they in the budget, Mark or Paul, Dan? And and we'll look at it and we'll go, do you know what? Yeah, we can suffer that. Or so that was always important as well. And what I'm saying is, from grassroots level, DJs within our demographic or geographic, won't necessarily get that opportunity.
No.
You know, that's what I firmly believe.
Yeah. I mean, I must say, like, with the events that I'm booked for, it's almost, you know, we'll never get the option of, Dribbz, we're booking you for a rave. Who do you want to perform with? It'll always be, you're on with this person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's down to the promoter to match them up. And sometimes it can be the wrong match.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it will be a style that... Let's say, for example, Neuro Drum and Bass, Mr. Bassface, a good friend of mine, the producer of these podcasts, he does Neuro Drum and Bass. Now, Neuro Drum and Bass has got quite a niche. It's a very heavy style of drum and bass. To me, it almost... Bassface does it well with it because he MCs as well, so he hosts it. To me, like, for what me and Monchi do, with Neuro Drum and Bass, it would never work. But we've had we've had promoters that have put us together, but we've rolled with it, do you know what I mean? Because that's you've got to be professional. You've got to adapt your style. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It is, but it's down to the promoter most of the time. We don't get the choice on who we're going to perform with.
But what it adds, even if you've got a headliner ad, you basically what that'll do is add to your CV. You know, if you're an MC or a DJ, you can then go ahead with your brand or as an individual DJ and say, do you know what? I played with this guy. You know, because that's a fact. You played it, so it's almost building your CV within that.
But when you meet them as circuit, well, you know that's part of it. You know,
it's networking, man.
Yeah, man.
It's networking.
Definitely, like, I know it's old-fashioned, but like that whole meeting with people. Honestly, I've always been. That is me. Like, I prefer. I'm a face-to-face up, on the phone. But when you see me, that's where I'm a bit more.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's mad because like we've had the opportunities now to work with some of our like people that we spent so much youth listening to.
Yeah.
Nicky Black Market, for example.
Yeah.
We've hosted probably 11 or 12 of his sets now, and like he kind of knows us by first name now, and that's just from networking. Do you know what I mean? Just spending 5 minutes before the set introducing ourselves. How's it going? We seen you last at blah blah blah. And you know what I mean? And now they're reaching out to us like on the gram, and it's a
cool,
great thing. It's a great thing.
You're buzzing on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back with you guys to the setting up. We're going to mention Parklands and have a bit of an intro with that, and I've got quite a decent intro for Parklands. But I want to talk about the setting up of these events to the three of you on a whole. Now, what does a normal day look like on the lead up to these events, or is there no such thing as a normal day?
There's no such thing as a normal day, Ad. I can answer that categorically. There's no.
You all agree on that, right?
Depending on the event. I mean, I know we said we'll touch on Parklands, but that's 12 months in the making. That's 12 months worth of discussing stuff, booking an artist. Working at budgets, planning, doing the paperwork, talking to the authorities, and loads of different stuff. So Parklands in a different sort of ball game. Yeah. But any event. Even let's say, for instance, our own little satellite events, you're talking months in advance. You've got to book your artists. And then if we talk about the lead up, let's say, for instance, day one when we go up on site, these things don't, as you know, Ad, anyway, but it doesn't just pop up. You've got what people don't see is marquees have to go up. You know, and they have to go up safely. Fencing has to go up. Cabling has to go in. Cabling has to be buried. And then there's the audio aspect. And then there's all the glitz and, you know, all the different bits and bobs that go into it. And then there's the management of it, organising the security. So we can be on site, on average, when we do our own events, away from Parklands, a week.
Yeah,
would you say?
We can, like, we get a camper and we'll sleep there, like, or... you know, whatever van's available to sleep in, like. But yeah, I mean, you know, like we always like. I mean, I'm like, I try to visualize something, so I will end up like drawing it out first and putting it onto a map, like, and I'll show these boys, and then they give me some stick on it, like. But you know what? For me, I've visually seen it,
yeah.
And it's not ever that far away. At the end, obviously, there's a couple of tweaks here and there, but it does help us in a way afterwards.
We all work in different ways, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I am definitely.
And I think that's what we've managed to maintain at first. You know, when we all started, we all had our own ideas. I wanted to do this, Paul wanted to do that, Dan wanted to do that. And, you know, that was, I'm not going to say tough, but it was a case of we all had our input. Well, do you know what? Input from everybody is great, but if you're all trying to do the same thing or different things, you're all sort of...
You're pulling in different directions.
Yeah, man.
So what
together.
You've got to meet in the middle, haven't you?
What we've actually learned now is our own dynamics. You know what? Weaks and strengths. He's good at that. Do you know what? That's your job. Paul's good at this, that's your job. Dan's good at this, that's his job. And we've learned now, and what we didn't used to do as well, if we needed to sort anything out, I'd go out, let's say for instance, and I'd buy it. And then I'd tell the lads, a couple of days, oh lads, I bought this. And they'd be like, oh, tell us when you're going to buy something, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I was constantly spending money and I was, you know, so it's been a massive learning curve even from my point of view.
Of course it has,
What we actually do now, when we've got anything to do, we have meetings regularly, all the time. And I know it's a bit sort of, you think, oh, well, what have you got to talk about? Well, blimey, now we can sit there for an hour and we will go through budget, we will go through the planning stage, right, what have we got to do, have we got that ticked off?
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people don't see is the safety aspect as well. There's always the safety aspect that we've got to look at. We don't want no liability.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got insurance, but we never want to claim on it. We don't want anything sort of that. So we have to look at everything from health and safety to, you know, the security. There's a lot of planning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of planning that goes into anything that we do. Anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like with what we were on about with the drawings and that, the whole thing with the fencing and stuff, I know it's a bit of a... But to create that environment, you know, you've got to sort of make it safe first, and then you'll make the inner sort of... You know what I mean? And then we've just got people that can go in, have a good time, and like what Mark said... Just let them go and enjoy it safely with your mind switched off, not worrying about where are they going.
Because it's already been planned.
Yeah, exactly. We've proper covered it, and I go a bit OTT. Mark, we don't need that much. But in the end of it, you know, the fencing, it's part of it. I've always liked how when people go into that arena, they're in the arena then, and I don't have to worry. And like Dan said the same, you know, getting behind stuff. It's making sure it's all, you know, safe.
Definitely. So I know that obviously these events can bring, I guess, a ton of stresses. It can never obviously run completely plain and, you know, and simple. But bit of honesty here now, lads. Who in the team is the calm one, and who's the we'll figure it out at 3 a.m. with cable ties and caffeine?
That's easy to... I'm the stress head. I make no bones about that. I'm the stress head. Anybody knows me, you know, you've got Paul and Dan laughing here because they know.
Dan, hang on a minute, Dan. No, Dan, I would definitely.
So Paul, I'm the stress head. I'm like the old man. I'm not like the dad of the group. But like then Paul is the chilled one. Dan's chilled back, but you know, Dan's a little bit more. You know, he'll come in the middle of the night and we're all chilled out because we think everything's done. Dan will all of a sudden pop up and go, lads, do you know how many times he's done that? Like, so. You know, some girls dropped her phone down the toilets. Well, we ain't going to do anything about that. You know,
who's rolling up their sleeves?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It's gone. They'll have to wait till they empty the toilets.
It returned. It did return.
But yeah, the dynamics between us all, it's you know, like Paul will say, it's yin and yang. Is that what you've
Definitely,
said?
yeah,
You know,
100%.
If I'm getting a bit sort of agitated or sort of a bit sort of stressed about something, Paul will go, Mark, look, da-da-da-da-da-da, or Dan will say da-da-da-da-da, and do you know what? We'll work it out between us.
Yeah, that's great.
There's never an issue that cannot be solved.
I mean, I think sometimes we get a moment where someone will have a problem, and then between us, we'll always sort it. Like, I mean, like I say, that I've always believed in that. You know, you share the problems, and it's half. Then it's not as big a mountain as you thought it was.
No, I get that. Yeah. What's one skill that you had to learn fast that nobody warned you about with running events?
I like really like on the spot thinking. I suppose them moments, because there's so much unpredictability within these. Honestly, the elements of what it is, like the weather. You know, like I mean
that's the biggest.
That's like one of our biggest enemies. Like I ain't gonna say like I love Mother Nature.
No,
I'm all about nature and all that.
Yeah.
But she can sometimes be really cruel, man.
She was. I'm not gonna lie. She was very cruel to Heel Festival, the last Heel Festival. My God, thunder, lightning, rain.
Man.
But I tell you what, it worked in our favour because the drum and bass tent was rammed.
Big shout to like Denny at Heel and Baz as well.
Yeah,
really,
really
top guys, man. And you know they've got us involved with them last year. And it was brilliant there.
It's
we
amazing.
actually enjoyed. We really enjoyed. I think the family element, because you know our events are like 18 and that's it. But on this event, it was like little kids dancing in our tent.
Now I always say,
was like, that's ace in the part of me.
It's a family event until the sun goes down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
9 o'clock, off to bed.
Then I wouldn't be bringing my kids there. Do you know what I mean?
But you know what? As an experience, because like we were a bit more laid back at this because obviously we did all our stuff, organised it like we do. We took it seriously. Obviously, you'd have seen it.
Yeah.
But then our kids come down, my family and my wife, and then like Dan's like our friends, you know. And it was brilliant because I actually took my little boys around. So I come into the drum and bass tent, I come into the techno, and then I took him into the art, and then we mooched around all over. But I think that was a thing that I took away from Heel, and I said to the boys that I actually enjoyed just a totally different vibe with the family that we don't normally get. That's what I really enjoyed with that.
Yeah. Now the Heel Festival is it's a good vibe. If you haven't been down there, get yourselves down there. Like, you know, we do massive lineups. This year I'm performing with DJ Hazard in the drum and bass. On the Friday I'm performing with Nicky Black Market, who's the headliner in the drum and bass tent, and on the Saturday I'm with Hazard. So I'm looking forward to that. And not only that, Baz has asked me if I can do the official podcast of the event as well. So we're going to have a separate marquee set up just with all the podcast equipment, and we're going to get people in to talk. So yeah, man, it should be decent. I'm looking forward to that.
That's a good call.
Brilliant,
That's a good call.
Definitely, man. So what's the proudest moment that you've had so far with audio tech? See, when I say audio tech, you can obviously mix this up with Parklands as well.
Yeah, I mean, audio tech, specific. I will say the proudest moment is obviously, you know, being recognised for our efforts.
Yeah.
And that's been winning the award 3 years on the trot.
Yeah.
You know, every year I've said to Paul, and this is, by the way, big up to Tim, Trademark.
Yes, big
up
Trademark, man. Honestly.
You know, when we talk about old school and, you know, people
man.
who've given a lot to the scene, he's one guy.
Yeah.
You know, I can go back 20 years with Tim, and when he was repping what he was doing, when, you know,
when
nobody else was
Manor
really
Heights.
doing. Yeah, exactly. When nobody really was doing a lot of stuff in his genre, Tim was out there trying to rep it, and he's still now pushing them boundaries. But yeah, I think our proudest moment is obviously winning our first award, and then
you must have a fucking cupboard full of them.
Well, I said to Paul, I said we can't win again on the second year. No, honestly, bro, it started getting to the point where I was thinking, everyone's going to be thinking there's envelopes going across the table here, and I was like, you know, and then we won it again, and then the third year, I said, Paul, look, you know, we'll go, we'll support, we'll love it, and then we won again. I was like, wow, okay, this is pretty mental. But
yeah, I think it was like for us like a proper like little humbling moment of just seeing how much like love was coming back from like, and I, you know, for us it's always just been we're just putting a night out for you all to enjoy. We hope you really do enjoy it, and then come back again if we do another one. So, and then for like them guys to like say like, I mean, on the third one there was like a proper genuine,
mate, I remember it. The roof got raised when audio tech was mentioned. Like, do you know what I mean?
I was like, what the
I know.
bro?
But
Honestly.
I think it's important. Like, I know you guys. I can tell from the vibe of you guys that you don't want all this fame and like have your bellies tickled and all that. But sometimes you deserve your flowers. Do you know what I mean? And whether it be a bouquet of nettles, whether it be a dandelion, sometimes you deserve your flowers. Do you know what I mean? And I think genuinely you guys deserve your flowers.
When I know we've done it a lot, Paul, we've stood behind the decks, and we've looked across and we've seen people in that moment. Yep. That's the win for us. That's the win. You know what? We might be on a down. We're on a loss on that event.
We have a little moment where we just go, we've done it again.
Yeah, we've done it again.
We've done it. We've done it again. And that is it. Like,
Come on.
That's a crowning moment for us, and that's, I can say genuinely from Dan's perspective, Paul's and my perspective, that's a proud moment when we look across and we see it. Load of people in the moment, loving it, and not necessarily coming up. We don't want them taps on the back and say, "Oh, great event, lads." Da 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 da. Do you know what? We just want to see it.
Okay, well, you mentioned that. Then let's flip it on its side. What's the weirdest or most unexpected compliment that you've got after a show?
Oh my!
So the weirdest or most unexpected.
You said there were going to be no awkward questions.
See, now for me, let me give you an example. For me, with my music and my hip hop, like the most unexpected I get is when, like, I don't know, someone that's 65, 70 that goes, I listen to your music and I don't normally listen to that genre, but I really liked it. That's a massive compliment for me because that's someone that necessarily wouldn't listen to my music.
Yeah.
I suppose from the one thing that sticks out for me was one specific DJ, quite famous for making quite a famous track. I'm not going to mention his name. See, Paul again straight away. He's saying because he knows, and he was like, couldn't get the vibe of your crowd. Couldn't get the vibe of your crowd. And then so he finished his set, and I thought it was okay, whatever. But he finished his set and packed his bag. He just wanted to leave straight away. And I said, look, do you want to talk to Daddy? And he was just...
there was nothing.
I know this is.
Yeah. It was almost a bit sort of...
But you know what? I go back to it again about like you can't predict how people are, and you have to take it with a pinch and a smile and go, all right. And we probably wouldn't be shouting them to come back again anyway in that respect because they're not. But at least we've had the experience. Nice to meet you and nice to like. So I mean, when we've had a really good one with Luck and Neat. They were brilliant. How they engaging, they were like really cool, and I thought that was a really good sort of difference.
The best one was Lisa Mafia. I mean, we booked Lisa Mafia and Romeo
and Lisa Mafia
for Parklands. I think they were supposed to be3/4 of an hour.
Yeah, they weren't not long.
That's what their contract. And they did over two and a half hours.
Yeah, they'd stay.
You know what? I remember Lisa Mafia. She leant down and she went, "Can we stay on for longer?" And I went, all good with me.
Hell yeah.
The only issue we had with that Dark Fader was due to go on.
I'm sure he didn't mind.
No, exactly. I said to John, I went, John, they want to play longer, and he went, crack on. Yeah. Crack on. And do you know what? Because they were in that moment. They were in that vibe. And then when we go on to about sort of earlier, big corporate events, you got to remember who these artists are. When they do these big corporate events, they don't get to meet the crowd. They just see a big crowd in front of them, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they buzz on a massive crowd with thousands. But when they see a crowd of, say, 500 or 1,000 people, whatever, they can interact a lot more with them. And, that was good for us. When they turned around and said, can we play longer? And we said, how long? And they were on for another good hour and a half.
Yeah.
They give the time up, and they had the place rocking, and they loved it. Yeah. They loved it.
Yo, this is your boy Jumping Jack Frost, and you're locked into the Dribbz Talk Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Keep it locked right here, baby.
Now, I'm very much aware that when you guys throw a party, you don't throw a half-hearted party, and you're more than willing to team up with other like-minded brands to provide an EDM genre for literally everyone. Now, I'd like to know from you guys, who have been some of your favourite brands to team up with and why? there's been quite a few brands that you guys have teamed up with.
I mean, listen, without a doubt, but my second love in music, or first love, there's no, I won't diss one for the other, but is working with Paul. One, because Paul is a really nice guy, and I'm not saying that because I know Paul's going to be listening. Hello, Paul. But we have many chats, and his enthusiasm and
through the roof, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And he's very professional.
You know what?
As well.
And I love that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And his drive.
It's infectious,
so that, yeah,
100%.
You know what? I've said to Paul when we've hooked up and doing a collaboration, I look forward to Paul's lives where he says, "Oh, it's me, Paul, at the Bottom Market," and da 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 da. I look forward to them because it's just like, oh, there's Paul, and he's tapping it out.
He's loving it.
Yeah. So that's. I would say the drum and bass, but there's so many. You've got we've worked with like sort of John and Steppin and
obviously
Masquerade,
big up
Baz, Masquerade, Dean,
Bazland,
and Baz with the techno.
Dean, and Dorks.
We can't sit here and say we've all got our own sort of
Well,
what we like in music, but.
It's like I think like the promoters that we've had, we've just been really lucky to come across some really like-minded people again that like love to see what we're trying to get out there, and they're like, oh, like what Mark was talking about with John, sort of having discussions with what artists do you think works and getting that feedback off them. I mean, like Baz is the same. Baz, brilliant at like giving us, knowledge, and because he's been around as well. And I think it's always important to listen to these guys and to pull it all in. I think I keep saying it. United we stand, it divided. But I always believe in that. I've always believed in a togetherness, and I think that when you're together, you can create and achieve amazing stuff. And I'm not going on, but. You don't need a daft thing like COVID.
No, of course not.
To get people together.
Who's been your most favourite act to book, would you say?
I mean, to date, we loved Mark Archer. He was brilliant, man. And the one in the forest sort of stands out to me that we had. That was that set. Like when I say wish we'd recorded, I wish we'd recorded that set because that was an awesome set. But yeah, I said before, Look and Neat, they were brilliant. And Artful Dodger, last year, the vibe in there, there we could go on
if you look at
Danny Rampling at Parklands, he was brilliant. Hazard, Kenny Ken. Kenny Ken had it smash.
Kenny Ken, Clue.
Yeah, Clue. Honestly, we could keep going. Fives. Honestly, all of the guys that we work with. I'm not just saying it. But the moments we've had with them, we've just loved it. You look around and you see it, and you just you get lost in it.
See, when you're looking at headline acts to book, what's the process? Do you book an act based on who you're feeling at that particular time, or do you book an act who will bring the most people in?
Unless we're doing it under sort of our own sort of brand, then we'll reach out to all respective promoters and say, right, guys, who do you want? We keep talking about Paul, but we'll say to John or Paul, right, who do you want? And then, or Baz, and they'll say, right, okay, these are quite relevant. And you know what Paul's like, and he'll be laughing now listening to this, but Paul loves a spreadsheet. Let me tell you now, that guy loves a spreadsheet, right? And I tell you what, Paul is so sort of corporate in that way. He'll come back to me and he'll put a spreadsheet together.
He's professional, man. You can't deny that.
He'll tell me sort of what ranking they are, how many likes or follows they've got on Instagram, and then he'll give this the important part, which is the price, and then we'll sit down and we'll go, can we do this? And we'll go.
Question is, does he wait till the very final moment to give you that price, or is that?
No, it's always on the spreadsheet. It's always on the spreadsheet.
And he'll also give obviously
his preference,
his thoughts are.
Yeah. That's important, man. It's important.
You go back with stuff and you talk about. With people working together and local, and that feedback as well of coming back to you with off people, it's always helpful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's for sure. So let's move on to the next event that you guys have got planned for Telford, and that is the fantastic, ever-growing Parklands Festival, which is due to be held on the 21st and 22nd of June of this year at the Arena, Telford Town Park in Telford. Now, as I've mentioned before, I've had the pleasure of being involved with Parklands Festival throughout Subvert for each event now, but unfortunately I'm out of the country for this one. But
sold us out, and he had sold.
No,
See,
he hasn't sold you that. Come on.
What people can't see, and this is for the viewers. Ad's looking at me as going, Mark, shut up. No, he hasn't. He's on to bigger and better things.
Well, I say unfortunately I'm out of the country. Yeah, Kavos. So I'm performing in Kavos. So that's
good, man.
Swings and roundabouts, man. It's going to be good. You know what I mean? But obviously this is going to be a massively exciting event. Now, as I've mentioned before, being involved with Subvert for each event now, with the likes of General Levy, Base Layers, Dread Zone, Heartless Crew and Graham Park, it really is something for everyone at this event.
100%.
What does it mean for you guys to be cemented into the scene as Telford's first and leading music festival? Because that's a big deal.
We don't look at it like that.
No, I'm sure you don't.
Yeah, we don't look at it as though we're Telford's this or Telford's that. But I appreciate
you are, bro.
and respect what you're saying. But we just look at it as though, do you know what? We're doing it because, one, we want to, but two, it's what we feel as though it's needed.
Yeah.
What we've aimed to do is obviously, I'll start at the beginning with the council because I think it's important to mention the part where, when we first took the park on, they viewed us with, I'm not going to say with a bit of scepticism, but, all of a sudden they've got three lads who are sort of hovering around them going, oh, we want to put a rave at Telford Park. And let's not look at prejudice, because there wasn't, because they obviously let us do it. But they capped us on numbers on the first year. They said, right, you can do it under a certain licence permission. And we did it, and we did it well. Then the next year they gave us the open licence, which we can have basically as many as we want. I think up to 10,000 people there.
Like a 2-day event.
And then we did it a bit longer. Obviously, it all went swimmingly. So, we've got no reason, but... that's the bottom line.
Yeah, it started off as just I think we were going over to look at, was it the chimney?
Yeah, do you know the chimney?
Yeah.
We wanted to do something
there, and we were thinking, we could, and then we got sort of shut down a bit by the environmental situation. I think they had
they were nesting
bats and stuff. The Batman and Robin.
And then she dropped the words.
Yeah.
What about the park?
You could actually use the bowl.
And then we sat down and we went, do you think we can pull this off, lads? And we knew we could. We knew our capabilities because we were technically already doing it, but just not on a larger scale.
And you've already got the following. It's not like you needed to build that up. You know what I mean?
Well, what we've tried to do, Ad, is the first year was, obviously we had to work to our budgets and blah, 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 and artists, etc. Then the second year, this year we feel, and this is not a big up from us, but we feel as though we've pushed the boat out a little bit more.
Yep.
And we're already now discussing, one with agents, but two with ourselves on how it's going to play out next year. And next year, we'll take it up another level.
Yeah.
If it needs that more investment. And I'm not just talking with respect to artists, Ad. There's a lot of things coming with regards to what we're doing at the moment. I won't go into too much of it. And I don't want to be so much cloak and dagger, but we're buying and stages and stuff, like big outdoor stages, so they're really immersive. Like you go to Boomtown and you've got all your big outdoor stages.
Yeah.
That's what's coming, mate.
See, to me...
That's what's coming.
To me, it's amazing that you guys are already thinking of the next event. You ain't focusing on the... Well, you are focusing on that, of course you are, but you've already got everything, all good. Yeah, exactly, bro. Yeah, and you're looking to 2026, that's crazy. Yeah. But obviously, you do what you've got to do. Now, you've all obviously seen a natural progression of this festival from, your very first event. And the more I attend these festivals, the more I see very much that it's all hands on deck from the team. Now, how do you guys build the team, and what's the process with delegating responsibilities?
Well, yeah, it's a mix and match. But to say it's a mix and match, obviously Dan knows what he's got to do. Paul knows what he's got to do. I know what I've got to do. And then you'll get us all chipping in. But what we have got, and what people probably don't see, is I would say a fairly big team behind us.
Yeah, we are.
A lot of helpers. We without the people behind us, we wouldn't be able to do half the stuff. And that'll to do with other suppliers who come in and help us, working with the right teams, you know, so that could be technicians, the right sound equipment people, and then everything from sort of the bar staff, that, you know, Kelly, the bar manager, and there's lots of different moving parts, loads of different moving parts. And what we've managed to do over time is obviously build relationships up with various suppliers, you know, even daft stuff down to toilets. But you know what? He'll look after us. He's got trailers and he'll say, okay, I'll bring over loads of stuff without toilets on just to help you guys out and da-di-da-di-da. But we've got a lot of that. Basically, we've got a lot of people behind us who help us out.
Build up a family around.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, it's taken time with people. I mean, like, you know, there's so many people to shout out, you know, Dave and
all the Daves.
Yeah, all the Daves. Yeah, there's loads of Daves, right? But they are all legends and grafters. And they, like I said, there is so many names. I couldn't start to begin to do it, but all I can say is to everyone that's helped us doing even the smallest roles to the biggest roles, been massive, you know. Without these boys and these girls, it's not happening, you know. That's it. Like, you know, these guys have really sort of, and we totally trust them the same way they give that love back to us. And
man, I think it's important
so cool
to acknowledge that, innit? Let's fucking give them a round of applause,
man.
man.
Honestly,
Big up to everyone for helping.
All the grafters out
Trust
there,
me.
man. Trust me, man.
All the dives.
Mate,
all the
honestly.
Rodneys. One thing that's evidently clear from all the Parklands promotion is the professionalism of your approach. Now, how important is branding and the vibe of the festival to you?
I think one thing we've sort of, I'll go out on a limb on this. I think one thing we've sort of lacked on over time is branding. You know, we've concentrated more on the event and where we should be concentrating on the event, but branding as well, because branding is key. You know, we want people to see our name, let's say, for instance, on Instagram, and go, oh, Audio Tech, I've heard of that. Yeah. And do you know what? We're getting so much of that now. I promise you, Paul, you'll back this up. We can go to random places. I had to have my car done the other day, somewhere random. And he went, oh yeah, he said, and we were talking about it. He'd gone in the boot and he'd seen a poster for Parklands. He went, is that you guys? I went, yeah. And he went, no way. He said, I've heard of that. Hey, some random guy. Yeah. But we're getting that so much a lot, but they're just seeing a brand now. So that brand is starting to get recognised a lot. But we know the importance of also as well, you know, marketing that brand.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I remember we went out a while ago, and it was a few months ago, and we bumped into random people come back from wherever we was, come back to the hotel, and we're all chatting outside, and then someone's just gone about Audio Tech, and they were like, oh, they're from Telford. I was like, what? Hang on a minute. It's like, yeah, we know. I was like, you know, how random it is, because they were from Telford.
That's crazy.
And they'd heard, so they're all, and that's what I just think, that is like something crazy when you think of it in that way, that it can be recognised miles away.
Definitely.
But, you know, that's what we would love to have more, you know, more of that.
I think what we've maintained now, Ad, is a brand that is trusted. Okay, whether, you know, it's going to be a sellout or not, you know, it's irrelevant almost, you know, but we take solace that when we say we're going to do an event, it's going to be the right event for the right people, and we're going to get the numbers regardless do we buy tickets. That's another aspect. But we know we're a trusted brand. Well, I would like to think that anyway, unless I'm right off the mark. Right. But, you know, we are a trusted brand. We're not going to cancel the event. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And if we say we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
I must say, like, when you say about trusted, it works for artists as well as attendees, because, like, with Subvert, for example, you know, we can go, me and Monchi can travel up and down the UK, and we can get to a club, and there's no sound engineer or the promoter's nowhere to be seen. You know, there's only one mic, and there's two of us, and there's no mic monitors, and we can just be fighting these things all the time. But we know when we go to Subvert, it's all good to go. You know, we'll step on stage. Rich will, because obviously there's Rich as well. Rich will obviously come round. Here's your second mic, Dribbz. Here's the mic monitors. Let us know if you need it louder or quiet. It's just fucking brilliant, and that's what we, you know, that's
and that's
what
an
we
important
enjoy.
thing to us to have the right techs on the stage. You know, not you know, you can say, oh, for these big artists. No, not just for big artists. For everyone, for everybody. For everyone. You know, that could be down to the lighting. That could be everything. You know, we've got to have it bob on. We've got to have it correct and 100%. So, yeah, I hear that. I hear that.
Now, throughout the years of Parklands, I've heard nothing but positive feedback, and I'm sure hearing these makes all the planning and all the preparation worthwhile. But what kind of experiences are you hoping that attendees walk away from?
That they liked it. In short, mate, that they liked it, and they're going to come back again next year
and tell their mates,
and then they're going to bring their mates, and because that's how it is. But we understand, honestly, more than anything that there's a lot of work to do, and not because of we're doing anything necessarily bad, but we know we've got to evolve. But we're aware of that before anybody can tell us. So. Yes, this year it'll be what it is. Don't get me wrong, we bought new stuff in. I'm not going to go into too much details, but we bought new stuff in this year. But what you'll see next year is something else. Yeah. Where we're bringing in the new immersive stages. It's already in the process. It's already being financed and all the rest of it. Yeah. And you're going to see a totally different sort of side to audio tech.
Love that.
And a totally different side to Parklands, because we understand that people want more. That otherwise what we would become is the same as last year or the same as the year before.
We never want it to be, you couldn't tell the difference
between
each year. Like, I mean, the first year we did it was just one day and it was just 2 arenas. So, I mean, then you go the second and then it's like 2 days and 3 arenas on each day, and then this time it's 2 days with 4 arenas. And the infrastructure's changed slightly, and there's lots of different things. So it's always, you're trying to get a unique experience, but with that same familiarity of the enjoyableness of it, you know what I mean?
We don't want to lose what we're about and how we do things, but what we'll actually be adding a lot of added value there. Yeah, because we've obviously been around and we've seen what other people are doing at these other festivals, and we think, do you know what? That's key. That's what we want. Yeah. That's what we've got to
sort
have.
Of filter out the things that you like, but obviously, hope
and that's what we're doing. And that's what we're doing.
Exactly. Now, for the benefit of my listeners here, and I'm going to start with Dan on this one, right? Who may never have attended Parklands, and if you haven't, where have you been? Can each of you describe this event in 3 words?
Describe Parklands in 3 words.
3 words, man.
I haven't got a clue.
Let's start with Mark then, and then you've got a bit of time to think about this.
Oh, you need some rehearsal time, do you? All right, Dan.
You told me to pick on him, didn't you?
No, we didn't say pick.
3 words: enjoyable music journey.
Amazing.
Take inspiration from
right.
that.
Don't just back that up, Dan. Don't just back that up. I want 3 fresh words.
Dan's next one.
A clue.
That's more than 3 words.
Being put on the spot.
Oh no! All right, I'll try to say memorable.
Well, there's your 3. Memorable and
No, but memorable, fun, and like honest. You know what I mean? For me, it's it's like, I know we did an event at the Butter Market a few months ago, and it was like where we did it. It was outside, and the staging and stuff. And I loved that little intimate feeling. And I was saying to Mark, it's like when we do the big events and stuff, sometimes you can lose a little bit of that, and that intimacy. Everyone in the room. I love seeing that. Like, so that's definitely something that I would say honest and intimate, and memorable. There are my 3 words. Like,
nice. Dan, you're just going to back that one up, bro?
Well, no, they're unique at what we do.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, now as I mentioned earlier, Parklands Festival really does seem to be going from strength to strength, and with no signs of slowing down. I want to know from you guys, where do you see the festival in the next 5 to 10 years? And that is quite a big time scale, really.
It is, and I mean, look, let's face it, we don't know what the landscape's going to be next year. None of us have
Could be an housing estate in the arena.
Yeah. No, don't say that.
Sorry.
The way Telford's going, it could have a block of flats on it. But no, we are at the moment, we're only taking sort of the capacity of 3/4 of the park. We are going to expand it. Even this year we're expanding it. And like I said, so where do we see Parklands? I'll go on about next year. We are going to make it bigger. We are going to make it, I don't want to say better, but we are.
We're always striving to try and just keep getting, obviously, because we know it's not always, like, there are elements that you can look back and go, this could, not to say, improve it, but there is, I suppose, evolve it again. That's the sort of word I would look for. It's like, because it is,
But yeah, there's going to be massive changes. Would you agree?
Yes,
Yeah. There's going to be massive changes to Parklands next year. It'll still be the Parklands that you know and love, or whatever, or some don't, whatever. But in the main, the landscape will change with how it's being done. That's all I'll say at this stage.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, we don't want to
enough.
say too much, but
of course,
there's absolutely some massive, investments there, definitely. But the landscape will change.
Nice.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, so going back to the brands, do you think that attendees are more brand aware now than they were a decade ago? And how has that influenced festival marketing, do you think?
Well, yeah, massively, because let's drop a brand. Let's just for instance drop Glastonbury. As a brand, it sells out in 20 minutes, 250,000 people. What festival? The whole of the, unless you're sort of.
The Burning Man.
Burning Man, yeah.
Probably,
but I mean, brand awareness is because what brand awareness does is brings trust. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I know that brand, and it's good, and that's key to a brand is understanding that brand is an honest brand and it's straight. They know what to expect from that brand.
Yeah.
So brand awareness is really, really key, and like I said, that's something that I think we've probably not been lacking in, but we've sort of.
I think more awareness is more of it.
Yeah,
it's just like, because obviously, the mind is just thinking about, just putting the event on, making sure everyone is sound, making sure the artists are all cool and everyone's happy, and right down to have the toilets got toilet roll, stuff like this. But it goes across it all, like.
Because Karen would be on Facebook saying that she went to Parklands and there was no bog roll. She had to use a sock.
And let's face it, who supplies bog roll at a festival? We do.
Hey,
do you know what?
Come to Parklands. We supply bog roll.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not a soundbite. Don't use
that.
I'm going to chop that up and put it up.
There's our USP.
No, it's not.
Love that. Now, if you had a dream brand that you'd love to collaborate with for your festival, what would it be? If it was anything.
I know straight away.
Come on.
From my perspective, if I got a choice of a collaboration, it would be with Anjuna Deep. Anjuna. You know why? Because we're myself, Paul, and Dan. We're massive fans of Anjuna for lots of different reasons.
Beyond, big up, man.
We
big
love
Above and Beyond.
all of their DJs have got a unique brand. Their branding is absolutely bob on. But if you look at how, I remember Anjuna from way over 15 years ago when they were like more a trance label, whatever. But the way they've gone and the way they've done it and they're marketed themselves, absolutely brilliant. Now, I've always said we'll watch some Anjuna stuff and I'll go, Paul, that's where we want to be.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be. We want to be in that
Nothing
scenario.
wrong with having goals, man.
Yeah.
And like another one, like Anima, the visuals. Again, we talk about the tech, and we love to have screens in the arenas as part of a little, because of that, that whole visual. When you see like what they do, that is something that is another, again, a little bit of an inspirational for us. We would love to have, you talk about something in 5 or 6 years or whatever, to be able to have stages with some of the screens like that, and to be able to sit back and go, wow, look at this again, in hopefully Telford or anywhere in our locality, and bringing these artists over here. That would be an amazing.
Expect to see when they go out these days more of a spectacle.
Yes.
Like years ago, it's more of a spectacle, a show.
Definitely,
I think we've got to start going a bit more in that direction.
That's why we've got to adapt.
100%. So, Once again, because this one deserves a second and a third mention, Parklands Festival is taking place on the 21st and the 22nd of June at the Arena in the Telford Town Park in Telford. There's 8 arenas across, I think, am I right in saying 8?
Correct.
I'm sure I counted 8.
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 8 arenas across 2 days, so you'll never be short of an act to have a dance to. And if you're looking for a safe space to rave comfortably, then I strongly suggest you head over to Fat Soma right now, grab your tickets. Early bird tickets across the whole weekend have sold out, but fear not, because you can still purchase individual tickets for the Saturday and the Sunday, or the full weekend tickets are available. This is their 3rd year of running these amazing events, and each festival sells out, so don't sit on this. Grab your tickets today and go and support this ever-growing brand and get behind the lads. They're a lovely bunch of lads, and by you purchasing a ticket, you're supporting a brand that is here to stay, and in the long run, that is what we all want. That's the aim. So, any last words from you lads about the festival and any up-and-coming events that you've got in the pipeline?
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to Parklands. You know, we are genuinely. We always do. We always do. We love it. As much as it's hard work. Technically, the hard work is done now. Obviously, you've got the build stage, but the hard work's done. You know, I know the lads
just got the build stage.
I got them in.
Yeah, but
only take 5 minutes.
Give them 5 minutes. Anyway, let them have their glory.
Let them get it out the system.
Let them have their glory. Anyway, so but so the back end work has been done. The bookings have been done. The paperwork's been done. Now it's just on to the build. I'm not saying that's easy, because we've already spoke about that. It's hard work, but do you know what? It is what it is. We have got other things pipelined. We've got a mansion party coming up on the 16th of August. We've booked a decent headliner for that. We can't wait to drop that out on the 8th of June. Yeah, we're going to drop that on the 8th of June. And leading from that, we've been given another venue, which is a venue I've wanted probably for the last 3 or 4 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah, but back to. I'll say back to our roots. Dan's kind of dropped it out, and I'm like, but look. It ain't the halfway house. It ain't the halfway house.
That's what I was thinking when you just first said that.
No, exactly. But you know, whatever. I should have just left it open. But what I'm saying is, this is after this one, we move on to this venue, and there's something else which is pretty big, but I'm not even going to hint. And I know Dan's not going to drop it because there's a lot of money being invested. But what I will do is I'll drop a hint as far as, do you remember Mothercare? It's something in the same sort of line, but it's not Mothercare. Put it that way. This is our own venture, and it's going to encompass a lot of things. You know, again, without going too much.
So it's a unit, right?
Well,
audio tech coming to a Sainsbury's near you.
Look, yeah, it's more an Aldi's, but you know, we'll go with Sainsbury's.
I said Sainsbury's, man, more upmarket. Come on.
Sainsbury's is a bit posh, mate. Come on, you're earning too much money, Ad.
Get out of it.
But no, it'll be encompassing more. You know, there'll be youth work going on. There'll be recording studio. There's various stuff. There's a lot of moving parts, Ad, and we're quite deep into negotiations at the moment with various authorities, and that'll be hitting early next year. And that's going to be a space that will be open to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons.
Jeez, that sounds mad exciting.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to butcher you after this. You know what I mean? I'm not. I'm going to try not to.
Do you know what? Actually, on the way here, we all said, and we spoke about it, and we went, we won't even talk about that, lads. You know,
you've done it, Anya. You've done it. Cat's out the bag.
You know what? It is, but it's not.
You've been quite subtle on that, man. It's all good. It's all good.
The mansion one has been like we was building on it for a while. I mean, we sort of said it at one of the music awards. We were hoping to get onto the mat, but it never quite. But now it's proper. It's proper been nailed, because obviously, like, you know, there's lots of different parts that have to line up, but now it's lined up, and we are really like looking. I know it's going to be cool. I think people will love it.
Love that. So Paul is opening up his mansion.
No.
He's opening up his mansion because he shops at Sainsbury's, and exciting times. Right, and so now we've got all the serious stuff out of the way, and I don't prepare you guys for this, because this This is my favourite part of the show because it's all about having a bit of fun. I mean, I've had fucking tons of fun anyway, but this is all about having a bit of fun. There is no right or wrong answer on this, and you can choose to pass. But there's 3 of you, man. I very much doubt you're going to pass.
No.
Someone's going to have a fucking answer
Dan's
for these.
answering them all.
Right.
I'm only joking.
Yeah. Dan's been quiet, you know.
Poor Dan.
Oh no, not poor Dan.
Right,
no.
come on. Are you ready for this? You ready?
Go on then.
Right then. If your festival had a mascot, who would it be and why? Told you, man. These are quick fire
A
questions.
dragon. Dragon and a phoenix.
Dragon and a phoenix, that's what we've got.
Dragon and a phoenix, we're going to say. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
we'd go for a phoenix.
If you could invite any fictional character to perform at your festival, who would it be?
Go on, Dan, you got answers.
Fictional character.
No, I'm passing.
Fucking hell, you passing?
Oh,
I'm
I'm
shocked
passing,
at
man.
that. I'm shocked at that.
I don't
What
do.
do you mean, like what a fictional character, as in what someone that's in a film or something? Is that what you're saying?
Well, like Spider-Man or something like that.
Spider-Man's
you know.
fictional.
Okay, yeah.
You can't just say Spider-Man.
Harry Potter.
No, you can't just say
Oh,
Spider-Man.
yeah,
Harry
you know
Potter.
one.
I'll bring Harry Potter.
Harry
yeah,
Potter
man,
fucking nailing round on a broom around the arena.
Man, getting some Quidditch going on.
Come on. Oh, that's what you're up in the game for in 2026,
bro,
man. I
why
fucking
did
found
I
it out. Audio Tech presents Hogwarts, man. Fucking hell.
Oh, damn it.
Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Come on, it's a perfectly normal
What I want to
question.
know, Ad, is where the hell did you get that question
It's a
from?
normal question, man.
it's a normal question.
I often ponder this every day.
Ask that question again, just to.
I'm going to take on the 100-sized horse ducks or whatever they're called. The little
So
ducks.
it's 1 horse-sized duck, so think of a
Right.
duck horse-sized,
I ain't taking
or
that
100 duck-sized
Yeah, I'm
horses.
taking little ones on.
Just boot them out the way.
Kicking height.
Pow,
I'm
pow.
Yeah, but that's the only way down.
Mark stayed really quiet for that. I'm quite
No,
shocked.
I'm just like,
He's in disbelief that I've even asked the question.
mate, you frazzled my head. I ain't
Yeah,
gonna lie.
sorry. What's your guilty pleasure song that you'd totally add to the lineup if no one would judge you?
I think Dan should answer this.
Yeah, Dan, come on, Dan. Tell them about your Chesney Hawks collection.
No.
Oh, you are the one and only, Dan. Come on. He was? No.
Guilty pleasure song. Can't
Yeah.
think of one.
Guilty pleasure.
Not in the
Like
dance
Lady
genre.
Gaga or
I can't think
anything
of
like
it.
that. Anyone got any?
I don't know. I mean, you know, if no one's going to judge me, and don't judge me on this because
He likes
No, it's
Adele.
no judging
but
here, bro.
it'd have to be something like Adele. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? She's a great British singer, absolute fantastic voice, and as a solo, and I would anything from Adele.
Okay,
Anything.
all right. There's no judging here, bro.
No.
What's the most ridiculous rumour you'd love to start about your festival?
Oh God, I think they've already been started, mate. But yeah, I don't know. That
all right.
Carl Cox turned up for a private set. You know what?
that's
You know what?
that's
Yeah,
a good one.
He just dropped in for an impromptu.
What's the most underrated festival job? Retrieving phones down toilets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's underrated, isn't it?
Well, you could always say bin collect, emptying the bins.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
do you know
yeah.
what? They are loved and appreciated as much as the person serving behind the bar or the person being on the gate doing the wristbands.
See, I like how the 3 of you look at
Yeah.
that.
Do you know
That's
what?
good.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Picking the litter up and stuff.
Yeah.
We all do it.
But we all do it. Yeah, we all do it.
So that round of applause was for you, Karen, as well, cleaning them bins, man.
Yeah.
If you could have one song play each time you enter the room for the rest of your days, what would it be?
We're going to go back to this
Mark
Chesney
with his
Hawks.
Adele number.
We're going back to this Chesney
Dan
Hawks.
with his Chesney
One and
Hawks.
only, yeah. Mine would be Wonderwall, man. Oasis.
Of course it would.
Always, man. Sunshine.
Right in.
It's not getting a bit annoying if
Yeah,
it's every
but
time
yeah,
you listen to a
I
room.
suppose.
I know, you'd be like,
Nah.
fucking hell, yeah.
I love them chords, though. It's just
If
the
you had
opening.
to swap lives with someone for a day, who would it be? Can be anyone. Just for one day.
I'd swap with Keir Starmer simply because he's an absolute. You know what I mean?
Political. Let's
Yeah.
not forget the line. Come
I'd
on,
swap with
forget.
just to do my bit. Do you know what I mean? And shame him. So that'd be.
All right, Mark. All right. In all your years, and I'm talking to all 3 of you. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I mean, I personally like just to always just just to stay yourselves, never change, you know,
100%.
always, whatever happens on this journey between us, like we'll always stay, you know, ourselves and keep true to the things that we love and that, you know.
Stay true to your own morals and
100%, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll take that, you know, stay humbled. It's because it's, you know, who we are. We loved by many, hated by few.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
how it is. You know, we can't be loved to everybody, can we?
No.
We just, you know, we're not that with those people. But
no, I mean,
you know,
Bob Marley said it best, and he'd love it all the same. But you know, not everyone the same, but different in that life,
yeah. What does happiness mean to you guys, and have you found it?
yeah, me definitely. Yeah, happily married, in love. No.
Oh, he's got points with the wife there.
Yeah.
Like, listen
him, mate. You know
listen
that.
to him.
You know what? He had to say that. He had to say that.
She
didn't
is
he?
proper, though. I will say that.
Yeah, Beck's
proper.
a good girl.
She is. She has had to put up with all of the and like Kelly as well for Dan. Like they're the partners. They're rocks. Like,
do you know
us,
what?
you know,
I totally.
massive,
I always say this, man.
Massive.
Like our women, like they don't get enough credit for what they have to put up with. Do you know what I mean? Like with me as an artist, like, you know, I'm writing lyrics in here, which means I'm not in the house. You know, and Beck's in there right now. She's in there with the kids, and you know, and she doesn't question it because she knows it's something that I do. I'm trying to chase a dream. I'm trying to get these podcasts lifted. And I said, you know, one day it might happen, or one day it might not happen, but at least I'll go to my grave knowing that I had a fucking good go with it.
Yeah, and
do you know what I mean?
She supported you along the way.
100%, man.
And it wouldn't happen without them, so I always do that. Like,
long hours getting in at 3 o'clock in the morning from raves, and
man.
like, you know, the girls cook me she's done me a sarnie for when I wake up, as well as looking after 3 kids, and it's a lot, man. These women don't get enough credit.
Teamwork, man, for
100%.
sure, massive.
Do you know what I mean? What's one thing that others may not know about you?
Dan, come on, Dan. Let's get down on
You
that.
told me to pick on Dan, and you're fucking picking on him, Paul.
I'm just like, I'm trying to keep him on this because he knows. Is there anything? Well, anything that I don't think most people. I mean, they might not know I love Liverpool, and that is my football team always. So yeah, that's something.
I've got a Birmingham City top over there. You can wear if you want.
Mate.
I'm blues through and through, me, mate. Blues through and through.
Mate, I remember actually going to a guy's house, and I think it was it Ricky Otto? I think he played for Birmingham.
Okay, yeah.
Right, and I actually did the work. Big shout out to Ricky if he's listening. But anyway,
if he randomly listens to this podcast.
But bro, top guy. But yeah, and he showed me a picture that he'd actually got on his side, and it was because he scored a goal at Liverpool, and it was like the still from that. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, you know, I love that sort of thing.
Has he still got it, or did you take? Is it on eBay right now? yeah. That's how you're funding audio tech.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, mate. No, like I said, it was just for me. I'd gone in there to do some work, and then I just seen it there.
Wow.
So you know what I mean? It's
That's
a
crazy.
random. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So regarding your events, what's the funniest Plan B that you've had to come up with on the spot when Plan A has exploded in your face?
I know. Yeah, we can talk about when we had to put that road in. Basically, we were doing an event out towards Shrewsbury Way, and the plan B was to have it on a certain field. Well, the rain came down so hard, we couldn't have it on this particular bit.
Is this that one near the motocross track?
Yes. Yeah. And basically, what we had to do, and a lot of people don't realise, the track leading to the actual
Jim Shaft Ryan event it was.
Yeah. The track had got that much bogged down, and he'd gone along in his tractor, and he'd left 6-foot divots. Anyway, so we had 20-40 ton of stone delivered.
Over 20 ton easily.
And then the tractor was going down, but obviously we're not civil engineers, and the farmer was helping us, and we tried to track it to put it down as much as possible. But that was our plan B, because if we hadn't have done that,
the event wouldn't have happened.
People wouldn't have even got to where. So that was random.
I mean, people still got stuck there, which is quite crazy. We've actually done loads of infrastructure, building it all up, and we got it all sorted, and it just kept on raining. If it happened this year, you wouldn't have even had an issue. Because it was like the way it was this year. It's bone dry. But because it was that year, and it actually hammered it on the event. But again, big shout out Bazza and the Technic crew and Mark and all them, but they just had a wicked time. And then we had Jim Shaffrine in our tent, and they just rocked. It was, you know what, the people that came there, they still had a wicked time. And then again, we felt like a little bit, we're glad at least we did it, because there was people that were looking forward to coming to it. And the weather is obviously, like I said before, it's our mortal enemy, man. You know,
every time.
If we lived in California, like, you know what, open stages all the time, Coachella style.
Definitely. True or false? Duct tape and cable ties is the real headliner of every festival.
100%, especially cable ties.
Yeah.
Cable ties.
Not so much duct tape, although we did use it on the one inflatable. But but the zip ties.
Zip ties. We go through bags on thousands, probably.
I bet they're still picking them up now.
Yeah.
All right, what's the unofficial festival dance move that everyone seems to do when they've lost their friends?
Oh man.
You know them ones. When you're like, I'm by myself, so I'm just going to bop to this festival.
I don't know.
It's all good. All right, okay, so be honest, how many energy drinks is too many during festival week?
See, I start with energy drinks, and
I do.
I had to lay off them, man. I was hearing too many bad stories. Social media was scaring me a bit about your heart, and I had to lay off that shit.
Yeah, I remember the bar last year, and I kept going to the bar, and they were actually refusing to actually give me any more. They were like, "Mark, you've had too many. You know, you're getting on a bit." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, but come on, just one more."
Just one more. Okay. Create a fake but hilarious sponsor that you wish would collaborate with your festival.
Oh man! Come on!
This is like a bit. A sponsor. I don't know.
Who would love to sponsor us?
Yeah.
It's just
a fake sponsor, isn't it? But I mean, I couldn't think anything really. That's like.
It's all good. It's all good.
Sorry, bro.
Okay, all good. Right. So finally, finish this sentence. You know you're at Parkland's festival when?
You know you're at Parkland's festival when your wristband gets put on. That's it.
That's
pretty
standard.
That's it. You know what? Your wristband's in. You've come in. You haven't got turned away. Do you know what? You're in, and you're listening to your favourite artist. Yeah. That's when you know you're at Parkland's.
I mean, I would say that you know when you're there when you actually see your mates at the bar with the arena, right by the arenas, and everyone's in that zone. And I think you get people then, they just, like I said, what we said before, going back, looking at all the people having a wicked time, that is one of the main things I really take away from them and really enjoy.
So you mentioned about the wristbands, but I'm not going to lie, like I've seen at least 2 or 3 people trying to dive under them fucking fences on that arena, man. They were trying.
Well, we had a couple of fences got proper twisted up because someone did actually jump on it and got in, but like they were, I think they were found, like, so. But
do you know what?
Security found them.
I'm not going to say it's something that we're prepared for. We are prepared for it, but it's nothing that, let's say, I don't know about yourself, Dan, but we haven't done in the past. So we have to look at it from that scale.
You can't judge them, can you?
We spent probably 20 years sneaking into Glastonbury, under the fence, over the fence. So at the end of the day, we have to take it as, do you know what? If they get in and they don't get detected, fair play to them. Yeah. That's what we say. But we do everything we can.
But you're not encouraging this, are you?
100% not.
Not encouraging.
100% not.
That's one of the reasons. Like with the fencing, is part of that is to make that safety, but also to just stop anyone from just walking up and going. I mean, we appreciate when people pay for the ticket, and it's the support that's shown in that way. So we always appreciate. We get it, the chances, whatever, but. When the people buy the ticket, that is like a real support, and it's showing that support by doing that. Like, so
definitely, Right, lads. Well, that wraps up today's podcast. I just want to take the time to thank you guys for jumping into the Dribbz Talks hot seat. I've loved having you guys over, and I wish you all the best with your next event. And once again, it's been an absolute pleasure to be involved. How have you found it?
It's been nice. I mean, at the end of the day, Ad's been saying for ages. I've been saying to the lads, coming in, lads, we need to get a podcast. But he's trying to get everybody in and, hooking it all up in time. But the time was right just now. But it's been insightful, and I hope, I knew it was going to be. It's a bit different, Ad. When you interview or do a podcast, for a DJ, it's DJing. It's slightly different for us as event organizer. It's always going to be a bit random, but that's how we are. We make no excuses,
and that makes good listening.
Do you know
what I mean?
That's how we're just off the cuff.
I mean,
nothing's planned, nothing's pre-prepared.
I've enjoyed like coming in to like I don't. I mean, in an environment like this, it's not really talking and stuff. But you made it nice and relaxed, and it's been good to like talk. Actually, think back some of the things because you've made us think a bit about stuff. I don't know about you boys, but it sort of reminded us some of the things we've actually been through to get to this point now. Obviously, it's good to take stock, and it's been ace to actually. Get the opportunity for people to
nice
listen out. We appreciate it, honestly, and keep doing what you're doing, man, because there's loads of people out there that are loving listening, and anyone that's out there, just keep supporting this guy because he's a legend, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I second that, Ad. Yeah, fair play to you, mate. You've been in the scene as
without people like you, bro. Honestly, I keep saying it, but it's people like yourself that. These other young kids, man, they need people to look, and this is where you're just showing that, we were talking about Pandemonium and the paths that they've stepped, and then we've sort of tried to, and it's the same for the artists like yourself. Just keep doing it, and these young kids are looking at you and then going, my guy can do it, so I'm going to have a go at this,
Well,
you're an advocate. We're all advocates in our own little way. You know what? And if we can inspire somebody to get into DJing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of that. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but there's going to be a lot of that next year where we're bringing in that youth culture, where we're bringing in people who are a little bit maybe disadvantaged from various avenues, and we're going to promote that big time. So, we see our job, it's important.
100%. Well, if there's anything, in the future, if there's anything I can do to help with you guys, then I'm there, man. 100%.
Yeah, respect.
But so big ups to everyone that's subscribed to the channel. Really, really appreciate it. We're just trying to make this grow. Give it a like, give it a share, all the good stuff, and stay blessed. And we will catch you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks Podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time. That's what the leaflets say.